106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Arf, arf, indeed. Welcome, my fellow friendly Chicagoans, to another Friday night edition of Chicago Corner. I'm your host, Jerry Vasilatos, and I will be joined shortly by my co-host and a special guest contributor. But before we go into our itinerary tonight with our show notes, the topic of tonight's show is going to be endorsements and how they have a serious impact on all of the issues facing the entire city, but most notably the abandoned portions of the city on the south and west side. We have Paul Vallas and Commissioner Brandon Johnson in the runoff. Not all the candidates have made endorsements yet, those that did not make the runoff. And that's going to be a topic of conversation tonight. I want to with an article that ran in the, actually it was an editorial that was run in the Tribune the other day by our friend of the show, Jamal Green. Jamal Green invited to write an editorial for the Tribune where he made some very, very good points that were related to his platform and his candidacy. And I want to start by sharing what Jamal had to share in the Tribune. Jamal's job for the next mayor of Chicago is to refund the communities. Jamal says, if the election that unseated Lori Lightfoot tells you anything, it should tell you that Chicagoans don't believe in our political system. The majority of registered voters decided not to cast a ballot because they fear the system will fail them again. The women are competing against wealthy special interest groups and biased media networks. This is why we need public financing of campaigns and online voting to bring up new leaders who are truly in it for the people. For too many years, Chicagoans have been lied to during campaign season, and so residents significantly distrust politicians. For too many years, we've increased the police budget when we should have refunded the communities. It's time for communities to get tangible results, or elections will continue to be counterproductive to our progression. The next mayor of Chicago prepared to retire the old ways and old system of politics. Families have been crying for safer streets, quality schools, affordable housing, clean air, clean water, and food access for too long. These are human rights, and it's going to require us to take down certain systems and create new ones if we ever want to achieve those goals. Take, for example, the creation of a city-owned bank. We've allowed banks to redline communities for many years, and we will still allow billions of tax dollars to be deposited in their institutions with no return of investment into our constituents. If we create a public bank and invest in home ownership, small business owners, public housing development, and more, the profit for those lower interest loans is an investment back into our city. Whereas private banks invest in private prisons, fossil fuel industries, and immigration detention centers. We also need to create a redevelopment authority similar to the land bank, but better run with more democracy. This would allow Chicago a vehicle to create mass development opportunities for our vacant lots and existing buildings throughout the city. For too long, aldermen have used their prerogative over city property in their wards, and authority would allow us to take control and streamline access to properties for community developers. These are all really, really good ideas, okay? And the reason I'm prefacing tonight's broadcast about endorsements is because it relates to a video, a live stream that Mr. Green shared today, Facebook and Instagram, because he talks about the fact that we're dealing with an old system where, unfortunately, you've got special interest financing candidates. He ran as an independent. He's clearly very disappointed, and I would be too, as Johnny Legalbo was when we had him on a couple weeks ago regarding the fact that in Jamal's case, he didn't make the runoff. But as we've stated a couple times, he came in after Willie Wilson and came in before any of the other candidates that didn't have the money that the top tier, quote unquote, status quo candidates had. And I think that says something, especially with the media having paid a lot of attention to him and given him a lot of credit and respect for his ideas. He continues to say the most important job of the next mayor is to make sure young people have opportunity. That is true. Public safety. Our city should be a youthopia. Schools should be sustainable and open throughout the day and on weekends with programs for students and parents. We need to institute trade and tech hubs around the whole city. We need to make sure there's a pipeline of the 50,000 manufacturing jobs that are currently open. When young people get off track, we should have a youth intervention department that will give interventionists resources to put them back on track. Our kids are smarter than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Let's make sure they all can fulfill their fullest potential in our city. The next mayor needs to explore a lot of other great ideas I've talked about during our campaign to make sure that everyone has basic human rights. Now, I want to punctuate that by a lot of people shared a lot of good ideas and shared a lot of those ideas that Jamal presented, which is one of the positive things we saw coming out of this election, was that it seemed that there were a lot of candidates in alignment about the same important issues. These ideas range from the city having city-owned grocery stores to a green jobs program for replacing our 30,000 lead service lines, as well as investing in the block club infrastructure program and a year-round apprenticeship program for youths aged 13 to 25. In addition to this, we should give away the first license for businesses for free and create a city app that lists available job opportunities across Chicago. It's also important to hold police officers accountable and not continue to inflate the police department's budget when it gives us no results. During the lead up to the runoff, I hope the candidates focus on the issues and not on the division that we've seen for the last 4 years. We need to put an end to identity politics because Black and brown communities suffer at a disproportionate rate. It's time to hit the ground running and get our city back working. We need a mayor who is going to have the three important bones to bring our community true investment: the wishbone, the jawbone, and the backbone. The wishbone is for all of the great ideas we want to implement. The jawbone is for eloquently putting these ideas on center stage. Finally, the most important is the backbone, because none of it matters if you're not willing to be radical enough to make these things happen. I am laser focused on who, like me, has the three bones to create a future we can all believe in. And no matter who becomes mayor, he should learn from the last two: don't test the backbone of the people. Jamal Green is a community activist and entrepreneur. Now, as I mentioned, Jamal did go on to Instagram and Facebook today with a live stream, and I'm going to bring that up here because it was a 40-minute stream, and it was titled, I think it was titled his endorsement or about his endorsement. It was titled endorsement, and it went on for 40 minutes, and I think 6 minutes that I thought were relevant to what we're going to be talking about tonight on the show. As soon as it allows me to load it, give me just a moment here, people. Sorry for the delay. Come on, man. My computer sucks us here. All right, here we go. Bear with me, everyone. By the way, while we're waiting to bring up this video, I want to thank our regular Patreons, Kathy Powers, Dr. Howard Ehrman, Shane Coughlin, Joy Locasio, and as always, last Mr. Dominic Palella. You know what? This is giving me a problem. I don't know if I got to close some windows here, so stand by. Oh, crud. Hey, Ed, if you're on the board, you want to bring yourself and our special guest in? Because my buttons are freezing over here.
Hey, Jerry. Yeah, I didn't know if it was on my end, but it seems like we might be having an internet situation, maybe coming from yours. So hopefully we'll go on with the show, or it might just be a quick reboot of your router. And joining us this evening.
No, you know what happened? I was trying to present the video, and I'm going to close. Here's the fresh boot before the show, and I'm at 63% right now, and I have no idea why. Let me double check something here. All I've got open is Chrome. All right, so here we go. I closed some windows. I think I'm going to be able to open this video file now. Give me a second. Yeah, it's working now. Suddenly, I've got more control. So here's the 6 minutes of that I cut from Jamal's My Endorsement video today.
On Facebook and Instagram, it's been one of those times where I've been resting, right? And one of those times I wanted to really spend my family and not, really just jump out anybody. Listen, I ain't picked the last two candidates, but let me say that obviously a lot of people have been, when I'm going to endorse one of the candidates in this race. And the reality of the situation is that I'm not pressured to do anything. What we've accomplished an amazing feat. As the youngest candidate ever to run for mayor of the city of Chicago, inspire young people all across this country to step up. We also have a lot of young people in this city that won seats because they were inspired by me stepping up. And, that's what's important. What's important is the fact that young people need to be engaged. And we started that step, right? We started that step. We got over 100,000 new followers. We got millions of views. We started that step to really engage in young people and making them feel that they are worth something, making them feel that their decision means something, right? The reality of the situation is obviously, yes, people have to make a choice. But I want people to stop. I want them to people to really stop trying to make this, now that these two candidates are here, which were decided by our white constituents. I want you to understand that the two candidates that were chosen in this mayoral.
Okay, so first of all, that troubles me because in his editorial, he talked about the fact that there shouldn't be a racial divide. And I understand his point that the North Side voted for Brandon Johnson and the South Side voted for Lori Lightfoot. That has to do with getting out the vote. I'm going to also bring Erica in here, who's our special guest, who was part of Jamal's campaign. And I do want her to be on the stream here as we're listening to what Jamal says so we can start and stop it. But, Ed, I did get your private chat, but I was kind of trying to get somewhere. So let me just keep things going.
Okay, I'm just trying to help wherever I can tonight.
I understand, but I've got a script here. I've got a blueprint for what I'm doing. So just let's be patient here, okay? Right. So I want to continue his video here, but before we continue the video, since I did pause it for a moment, I would like to welcome to our program tonight our special contributor and activist and community organizer from the South Side, Erica Nanton.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Hey, Jay.
Erica.
Hey, Ed. Hey, viewers. What up?
Now, there's a reason I invited Erica on tonight. Erica worked on Jamal's campaign, and there's been a lot of emotion on social media regarding endorsements. And to be fair, Cam Buckner hasn't given an endorsement yet either, nor have some of the other candidates. But because Jamal was so prominent, a lot of people who are looking to him because he rallied the youth vote are very concerned that unless that youth vote doesn't get mobilized, we might have Palos Paul, the privatizer, as the next mayor of the city of Chicago. So, Erica, I kind of jumped the gun bringing you here. Ed, I want to finish the video and then we want to talk with Erica here. So let me run the video and then we can talk more with Erica. I want to finish what Jamal had to say here.
Race, where most 90% of both of their votes were white people. Okay, so white constituents, because the turnout in black communities were very low, white constituents chose the last two candidates. So now, obviously, as somebody who's not spending millions of dollars to build a base in the white community because I didn't have it, and obviously being a young radical black boy, it's kind of hard, right? So at the end of the day, they chose a black person that they felt that, you know, was aligned with their values, and they chose a white man who was the only white man in the race. So both candidates were chosen. Now, let me say this, you know, the reality of the situation is that we got to do a lot of work for the next time, because it's just like the presidential primary. The primaries matter, right? Because whoever gets into the general, you're going to be forced to vote for them. We're dealing with that same thing right now, right? Where the people in my communities, the people who are suffering, they did not choose these two candidates, but they are now being forced to choose one or the other, because these are the candidates that they chose for you, okay? That they chose for you. Now, do I disagree with, you know, both of the candidates? Yes, I disagree with both of the candidates on many issues. Do I think that one is 100% superior to the other? No, because I think both of them have bad things and good things about them. And the reality of the situation is there are two unions who have a lot of power here. The biggest unions in the city of Chicago, the teachers union and the police union. And they both are behind one or the other candidate. Now, the reality is that young people must start to organize. We got to create a machine that's bigger than their machine. And let me tell you something. Nobody can tell me anything about Chicago politics, because half of my life I fought every politician in this state, in this city. So I want y'all to understand that. I'm not scared of a Rahm Emanuel. I was one of the first activists in the country to be in front of his house, to protest his house 7 times. Go look and go do the records. I'm the organizer of the only shutdown rally of Donald Trump. Donald Trump rally only had one shutdown in this country, and it was the shutdown rally that I helped organize. So I've stood up against all of them because
So there's a lot of me.
Oh my
me.
God. Let J-Mal tell it. He was at that arena by his dang old self when Trump got shut down, when there was like hundreds and hundreds of people and young people out there. And I guarantee, and I know some of them, and I guarantee if you ask them right now, did you show up at that shutdown because of J-Mal? They would be like, no, you know, he plays too much. But if you want to finish this,
yeah,
go ahead.
I wanted to pause it though, because unfortunately, the editorial that I read at the top of the show reflects the J-Mal I really believe in and respect and voted for. And I understand the disappointment. I understand he's been at this for a long time, 10 or 15 years by his estimation, saying half of his life, because is he 25 or 26?
27.
Actually, 27. Okay, so less than 12 years he's been at this, since I think he was 15. He was very, very engaged. But you're a leader. It's not about the leader. It's about the movement.
Exactly.
And what's troubling me in the unwillingness to, again, in the light of other candidates haven't made endorsements yet either, but he's the one who really took a spotlight this time around. So,
and there's a reason for that, Jerry, which I want to talk about. But
please, yeah. Well, why don't you go? Should we finish his video, or
yeah, go ahead and finish the video.
Let's finish,
so
then we can really get into
J-Mal, you know, his time. Yeah.
Because I want to give him his time, because, by the way, I want to let our viewers know I didn't personally invite J-Mal onto the show tonight. I texted him and he declined. And I said, that's fine. I mean, you know, if you don't want to come on, maybe sometime in the future. I thought you wrote a great editorial. I'm going to share that on the show also, because I think it's very relevant to what we're talking about here. But, you know, we try to keep it real here and be, you know, as objective as we can. And everybody knows I voted for him. And this is not going to be a roast J-Mal night, but it is going to be a night about the endorsements and, you know, the accountability of a leader that's rallying the cause. At what point do you kind of take yourself out of it and say, what's going to be best? This guy or that guy, even though I don't agree with both, clearly one is not going to help my community. The other probably is. So let's finish this video that we can unwrap it.
I don't give a damn Democrat or Republican. If you are going against the people of the city of Chicago, I'm going to step up against you, and I don't give a damn how you feel about it, because you can't do nothing to me, right? That's how I've always felt. And so we have these it's election season.
Did we freeze?
And everybody is playing these super extremes. When the reality of the situation is, I don't believe either one of the candidates will do more than one term. And I believe we're going to be organizing against either one. And at the end of the day, they want me to make a decision and they want me to endorse a candidate. I honestly, if I'm being honest, I would rather stay out of it, right? I would rather stay out. I know how I really.
Why are you still talking then?
Foolishness, seriously.
I mean,
it was a 40-minute live stream today, and I wasn't available to like comment there, but Ed did. And Ed, why don't you share your experience?
Okay.
Here we go.
I mean, I did post a few things in the Slack, and I was like,
I've got him. I'm gonna bring him in. Hang on a second. I'll bring him in.
I missed a few things on the front end, but I was trying to listen to him just to get it, and I got into the live chat, and I'm like, okay, first he's telling us he's not going to be endorsing anybody, and I'm like, you don't have to, but let us know if you're going to or not, because you've been stringing us along for days.
And this live stream was 40 minutes long, talking about the lack of endorsement.
And then, of course, his defense basically is, well, I'm addressing my supporters. I'm like, dude, you're a public figure now. And when you go on Twitter, which is a globally accessible platform, and tell people you're going to make an announcement about endorsement, that means that you're probably going to say something one way or the other. If you're not going to, then just say you're not going to. Yep. I made a point about, I said, look, you and Cam Buckner got about the same percentage of votes. You might have just got a little bit more, about 2%, right? Cam Buckner was like just under 2%. I think when all the votes finally come in after another week of receiving by mail ballots, they're probably going to be close to tied. And I'm like, you don't see Cam Buckner going around telling everybody he's got an announcement coming and all this other stuff. And that was my point.
Exactly. And that's why Cam Buckner is not facing the same type of backlash in the movement that Jamal is.
It's like, I don't care if Cam Buckner makes an endorsement or not, but the point is he hasn't said that he will. He hasn't said he's going to address you shortly and let everybody know what he's doing.
AKA, Ed, like I like to call it, playing games.
It feels very much like he's playing games here. And I'm like, when you get 5 weeks until the runoff, and you want to use whatever political capital you've gained from your campaign, making people wait and stringing them along is not really going to work for you. Your 15 minutes are almost up, J-Mo.
Thank you. It's so
and I hate saying that because I like the guy.
Yeah, I do too. And I think Erica does also. But now, Erica, why don't you? So we're being objective and we're being critical of the fact that he's a leader in a position to rally voter, even if he doesn't. We've always been told to hold our nose and vote for the least of two evils. I don't think you can identify Johnson as an evil, nor the CTU. Okay, yeah. So when he was talking about it's the difference between two unions, the Fraternal Order of Police and the Chicago Teachers Union, I'm like, how the fuck do you excuse my language? How do you even put those two together?
And especially and then the thing, okay, so Jerry, because I'm finna go in I'm about to go in. But I just want to preface this with thinking about what Jamal ran on, right? Mm-hmm. He ran on, we don't need more police, we need investment. He ran on that. Jamal has been going around. I was at the public forum, the youth forum that he was at, where he said he led the Laquan movement, which is a stretch, okay, to say the least, and completely dismissive of tons of other leaders who got arrested, who gave up, who got beaten up by CPD, who have gotten arrest records, and all of these things. And for him to say he led this movement, right? But the point is, okay, let's just say, okay, you led the Laquan movement, as you say, How is the dude backed by the FOP, right? Where it has been said that spotted at his campaign celebration runoff event, Paul Vallas was spotted Anita Alvarez and Gary McCarthy. How is that the same? And they helped to cover up Laquan's murder. She was the state's attorney at the time, and he was the chief of police. How in the world could you even equate shindigging in a room with Anita Alvarez and Gary McCarthy and Paul Vallas as equivalent to shindigging in a room with Stacey Davis Gates and Jackie Algie from SEIU? Two powerful Black women that are union organizers of Black people and Black workers, to the FOP and Gary McCarthy and Anita Alvarez.
And more than that, Erica, union workers who are taking care of children, taking care of everyone's children.
Thank you. And it's like, come on, bro. Like, this is not about it being some kind of equally difficult decision. Or like, it's not about that. And unfortunately, what it's coming out to be is Jamal salty that he lost. He's salty that he lost to someone that was more likable. He's salty. And this is the other thing, too. This is another thing I want to bring out. With the organizing community, right? The organizing community on the ground have had personal experiences with both Brandon Johnson and Jamal.
Okay.
Because Brandon Johnson was an organizer with CTU. He's been on the ground for protests and strikes and all types of things. And Jamal, too, has been on the ground for protests and all these different things. So from the organizing and the movement perspective, many of us have rubbed shoulders with both of them on the ground before they ever ran for anything, before Brandon was a commissioner and before Jamal ever decided to seek office. And those experiences stick with people, right? Especially in movement spaces and in the movement. And when you have an opportunity to bring those people together, right? And the reason you said I worked on his campaign, I think that's a stretch. I didn't really like work on it. But
you were a volunteer, though. I believe you. I saw you at his announcement.
Yeah, I was at the kickoff event. Yeah. I was actually considering him, and one of my reasons was he is very young. I'm a youth organizer myself. Right? I'm a youth organizer. I work with middle schoolers, high schoolers, college age, and I'm a youth. And so it's like, I saw it as we can't be saying we don't want to give up on our young people out here in the hood, but then we ready to give up on J-Ball when he did some immature things in the past, right? And so I was really pushing for him, people to give him another chance, people to sit down with him that had issues from his younger years and say, hey, maybe he's changed. And I was really going to bat for this dude. But he just absolutely refused to listen. And the very things that people have problems with that I wanted to bridge, he began to double down. I mean, like doubly, it got worse, you know?
Can I interject here? What troubles me about that, the doubling down reflects a thin skin that's not too dissimilar from who we just got rid of.
Lori, you are
and blocking right people on social media,
yep,
not being receptive to criticism, or, you know, Ed's comments in his live chat on Facebook today. Ed was very respectful. You know, when I was going
to tried to be.
You were. No, you were. When I used to go into Lori Lightfoot streams, I wasn't. I was trolling because she pisses me off. But Ed was doing it, and plus, I'm trying to cause trouble. But I thought Ed was very measured and very respectful. So when he told him, this is just for my supporters, if you're not one of those, get out. It's like, dude, we're all your supporters. We believe in you. We see that you obviously have leadership abilities, but I'm going to get crucified for saying this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. A lot of the things that people pointed to with his age are being reflected, I feel right now, in an immaturity that I didn't want to think was there.
Yeah.
I don't think he's an immature. I hate to say that, but it's like the if you're not, he doesn't have to make an endorsement, fine, but don't spend 40 minutes on a live stream talking about it and kind of keeping people in suspense to keep attention on you.
Yeah, and Jerry, that's not a reflection of all young people.
Of course,
no.
I'm pretty young myself. I'm not old enough to be Jamal's mama. I'm old enough to maybe be his big sister. But I'm young too, and it's not a reflection of all young people, right? There's plenty of organizers out here who are who get it, and they're not out here moving like this. This is an ego-driven issue.
Yeah,
and
I
he
think
refuses
I
to
think
take
it's
critique.
and I think it's also the disappointment in not winning. I think he's mature on a lot of things, and I don't want to sound like I'm carrying water for him, because I think he's mature on a lot of his ideas. But I think on a personal level, he's immature in how he's handling the loss and how he's carrying on. Because this is not a good look on social media. Block your critics.
Oh
Many
my
of them are
gosh,
being respectful in how
people.
they're talking to you.
Yeah, and as a public official, I think there's like this rule, like if you're elected, you can't block your constituents like that.
But he's not
like,
elected. I think
yeah, he's not elected yet, but it just goes to show, right? It's like if that's the way that you're handling it, and like one thing I said, it may sound funny, but it's true. Jamal is building a bigger multiracial coalition with his block button than he ever did out here organizing.
Explain that to us.
Everybody, it's a whole multiracial. It's the hashtag for getting blocked by Jamal on social media is me too. It's like, good God, he blocked everybody, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation with Jerry off stream one time where I was talking about how it is possible to be young and also wise. You have some people are capable of doing that, but even then, it takes a while for people to gain wisdom to just figure out, sorry, I'm distracted by what you just put on the screen.
You see that one girl, she said,
please continue. I was just referencing what
to Jerry's point of saying that about immaturity. You can be any age and immature, right? And
true. That is
true.
True.
Our current mayor has proven that. Our current host sometimes too, but I mean, I'm just saying that he has the ability to be more wise and tactful than he currently is seems to be behaving. And I don't know if it's just he's just still salty about not getting the support he thought he deserved in the primaries. But I mean, when you think you got it all figured out and you're not taking anyone else's advice, or you're not taking a lot of the advice to heart instead of being offended by someone suggesting you're doing something wrong. It just shows that you're not seeing the entire picture, in my perspective.
Exactly. But y'all, it's kind of comical sometimes. I'm sorry, y'all. See, okay, but I want to go a little deeper on this, Ed and Jerry, just like a little deeper, right? And I see this comment from Lioniston. I've known him for years. He hasn't blocked me. Baby Lioness, let me tell you something. Go ahead and give him some constructive criticism. Don't agree with him real quick online.
I'm afraid I'm going to get blocked. I'm afraid I'm going to get
in the Me Too movement, right, with the rest of us. So
I'm afraid I'm going to be blocked after tonight, despite
you're going to be blocked.
I invited him on. I shared what was an absolutely stellar editorial with great ideas, but we're speaking to the fact, and we're going to move into that also after Erica makes a few more points about the importance of these endorsements. If he's clearly not going to make one, then that's fine. So we've moved beyond that. But we will also talk about why the endorsements are so crucial for what's at stake here. But go ahead, Erica. Please continue.
Yeah. So I basically wanted to touch on, just to get a little deeper with this, right? It's not the thing with Jamal is the issues that he is encountering. Of course, I'm sorry for the background noise. That's right. Having a little time. But it's that Jamal is exemplifying, right, that even though there are some similarities, there is a difference between an activist and an organizer. And that is what we saw play out in this race. Jamal is an activist. Brandon is an organizer. Now, are there organizers that are sometimes activists? Yeah, it's like being cousins, right? We're similar, but not exactly the same. And are there some activists who are organizers? Some of the most famous people we know, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they were activists and organizers, right? But their organizing was what really made them powerful. Jamal, though, he is an activist. He may know organizing rhetoric, But when you're an actual organizer, you know organizing principles. And some of those organizing principles are having a more in-depth political analysis and political education that is not so shallow and surface. Like his analysis of white people are the ones who elected Brandon and who elected Vallas, without realizing that there's a deeper political analysis for why that was. There's a deeper political analysis for why Black people felt so disillusioned that they only went for Lori Lightfoot because they thought she was inevitable. And that if he had a deeper political analysis like an organizer should, he would understand that the reason why Black people did that is because we have an issue in the Black community and in our hoods of voting in elections like you vote on racehorses. It's a casino type style voting. People vote for who they think is going to win, like it's a horse race, as opposed to actually voting for who needs to win. That is an issue in the hood. And if you had a deeper political analysis as an actual organizer on the ground, you'd know that. And so you wouldn't have this shallow, oh, white people pick both analysis. And then on top of that, you would also understand this as a deeper analysis, that right now we are in a battle in this country. White people are in a battle that they need to be in. Okay? This is a battle between white people. And white people are now battling to decide who they gonna be in the future. And so it makes sense that there was this kind of progressive white folk fight on one side and the conservative Trumper, white people on the other side, because that white people need to be duking it out right now. That's what white people should be doing.
That's what we're doing here.
Exactly. So good. I'm glad. Okay. But at the same time, to make that into something that disregards Brandon's election or making it to the runoff is just not a deep analysis. And then on top of that, J-Mal's one to talk. He started out his claim to fame being on the Bernie Sanders campaign. And the last time I checked, Bernie ain't Black. Last time I checked, Bernie is white as can be. And J-Mal has been connected, and anybody who was in the Bernie movement that's Black knows that it was a struggle as far as like having a ton of Black people there with you all the time. And so it was a lot of white progressives. It just was, and that's his claim to fame. So how he gonna sit up here when he is so connected and so much as his catapult, it's been white progressives in the same way that white progressives helped Brandon win. It's so hypocritical, yo. It's BS.
It is. Yeah, that's actually where J-Mal first got on my radar, was at a Bernie Sanders rally. He probably doesn't even remember me from there. He was handing out basically stickers because I think that was his first time around where he was telling people he was going to run for mayor. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. I mean, this guy seemed cool. I was like, let's look him up and see what he's about. And
also, Ed, for all the talk about only white people are supporting Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, this is a good one right here. So I don't know if you have it. So
she endorsed J-Mal, and I'm glad she did. She's a very forward-thinking progressive. She's very politically active.
The actress, for those who don't know. But the thing is, I just looked up because I don't like trafficking rumors or nothing. I like receipts, baby. Okay. And J-Mal, stop the shenanigans, yo. Stop the shenanigans, dude. On your Illinois Sunshine Report, which is the publicly accessible report of every candidate's campaign funding and donors and where your money came from, on your Illinois Sunshine Report, you have donations from Susan Sarandon. You got donations from if you could pull it up for me, Jorge Newberry, which if you pull up his, I don't know if we have a photo of him.
Yeah, I can't switch him fast enough, but I'll pull that one.
Oh, you can't switch him fast. Okay. Yeah. But Jorge Newberry, and he don't look Black to me. Okay. And he made a nice chunk of change donation to you. So he also don't seem poor. Okay. So
who is new? Can you tell us who Newberry is? I'm not.
From my understanding, he's a real estate developer. He works on J-Mal's right to own thing, but he's got some bread. He's not an impoverished man. Okay. I think how that donation was what? 10 G's or something like that, or bigger.
And I can understand their business relationship because Jamal spearheaded a very important program in the My Turn to Own program, and it's been very, very helpful. So yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, and I think that's why I paused the video at that moment where he said, you know, mostly white people on the north side voted and supported Brandon. I don't care if they were white, black, yellow, purple. Jamal, you have some white support. You have some white supporters also.
Like, bruh.
And we love you. And I feel like this is an intervention because we see things in you. And you know, again, I guess we just need to get past the fact he doesn't want to endorse. When he was making announcements on social media that, you know, everybody's waiting for him and everybody was in suspense, it was almost as if he was signaling he was going to endorse Vallas. That's what people, it's like he was getting people ready to brace for that. And then I was talking with Eric. I'm like, do you think he might just be doing that, you know, to kind of like maybe get Brandon to give him a bigger seat at the table to get his stuff moving forward? And you told me, no, you didn't think that's what it was.
Yeah. And it's sad because he should be doing that.
Yeah. Use a strategy. I'm not going to endorse you, and thinking that maybe he's talking with both of them. And look, he mentioned that Paul was for a public bank. Erica, you so eloquently said Paul could promise you a pony. It doesn't mean you're going to get it.
Exactly.
Paul has shown who he is.
Yes, Paul Vallas is out here promising black leaders ponies, unicorns, and ice cream machines. Okay? And guess what?
He's not going to give you the public bank, Jamal. I think there's a better shot at it with Commissioner Johnson. But by the way, we're going to have Johnson on next Tuesday, and our first question is going to be public bank, yes or no. If it's no, we're going to ask why not.
Why not? Exactly. Yeah. And that's the type of things that should be being discussed, right? Because I support the public bank, right? And if Brandon Johnson just needs to have a broader vision, because think about this, right? Paul Vallas' donors are the wealthiest people in the city. He's freaking funded by Ken Griffin. Them mofos got so much
started on him
in the private banking industry.
I know.
They don't want no damn public bank, so he can forget it with him. But however, Brandon Johnson, on the other hand, is connected to tons of public workers, which is a perfect segue.
He's representing the working class.
Yes, perfect connection to the public bank. And so it's like making that connection make sense, and then motivating those supporters as an organizer, right, to be for it, so that voice is louder to Brandon than just a couple people, right? Because that's organizing, not just thinking that your voice should be at the table and you can advocate for everybody on your own. No, it's the job of the people to advocate for themselves. And it's your job as an organizer to empower them to do so that there is strength in our voices together. But that's the mindset of an organizer, not the mindset of an activist doing a press conference. Ain't nothing wrong with press conferences. Ain't nothing wrong with getting in front of a mic. But there comes a time and place where you got to do what Ella Baker calls the root work. And that root work is the real work. And Brandon Johnson is an organizer, which is why Brandon Johnson is succeeding at this thing. Period. That's all it is. And Jamal has to learn that.
Yeah, it's weird to me because it feels like, you know, one of his criticisms was that all these people who are already holding other public offices are now running for mayor. And I'm like, well, you know, you can't just always get the job you want, right? You can't always, like, I mean, billionaires sometimes can just decide they're going to run for president. Why isn't Jamal running for president if that's his logic about all the other candidates that were in the race? Dude, just run for president then. Because, my suggestion was that the way that he talks about stuff and the way that he wants to do a lot of things and make a lot of changes, he should have run for alderman of his ward. Because then he would be able to start getting a lot more cred in the city and interacting with the people in city council and figuring out how their wheeling and dealing works, and then have the insight for that next time maybe he wants to run for mayor again, he will have that learned experience, since that's so important to him. And then maybe get the support that he thinks he should have gotten this time around. I just put up a tweet. I don't know if you want to show it, because Erica had mentioned Ken Griffin, and so not everybody knows who Ken Griffin is. So really quick, this is my 30-second version of who the hell is Ken Griffin.
Sorry, y'all. I had to turn my mic off and my camera off because I had a toddler situation, but he's good now.
No worries.
All right, so this is my 30-second version of who the hell is Ken Griffin. Meddling Ken Griffin skipped town and is one of the Wall Street weasels involved in distorting stock prices via dark pools and synthetic shares. Those are fake shares. While the SEC and other regulators look the other way, hosing everyone with stocks, an IRA, or a 401k retirement account. Ken Griffin is one of the Wall Street weasels who is making you poorer by the second, especially if you have a retirement account. That should piss off everybody, not just people in Chicago.
The fact that he's go ahead.
And he doesn't even live in Chicago anymore.
Right.
He's in town.
Nor does Palos Paul really live in Chicago. We know where he's paying his property taxes in Palos Heights. And it's people like Ken Griffin from out of town that are going to support Paul Vallas into office. So Paul Vallas can carve up the city for them and not give anything to the South or West sides. The famous quote that Harold Washington shared was, he said that when he got into office, everybody thought that they were going to get their piece of the pie. And he said, no, everybody's going to eat. Okay. I see everybody eating with Brandon Johnson. Yeah. I see pieces of the pie being divvied up by Paul Vallas to the scumbags like Ken Griffin, who fled Chicago while talking about how horrible it was here. So he can go live down in Florida because he thinks DeSantis is going to run for president. So he can lobby to be Treasury Secretary and be a real fox in charge of the hen house.
Jeez Louise. Yeah. And that's so true. And just, touching on, like, I was listening though what you guys were talking about when I stepped away, but about like not always getting the job that you want, and like it doesn't always work like that. And just by the way, somebody mentioned about Jamal running for president. He said the only reason he wasn't going to do it is because he doesn't meet the age requirement yet.
I heard. He also said that he didn't have millions of dollars to be able to win the North Side vote. I'm like, you didn't need millions of dollars to win the North Side vote. You just needed to spend more time on the North Side. I did see him do one North Side appearance, but I only saw one. But we were talking on the show from when he announced. We really hope he makes a strong showing, and he needs the North Side vote. And I know he worked the South and West Sides really hard, but people were either not educated about the facts, and Lori Lightfoot was bamboozling the South and West Sides again also. You have a lot of people of faith on the South and West Sides, Erica, which is wonderful, but they see the best in people. And unfortunately, Lori Lightfoot played that card, fooling them again.
Absolutely. And honestly, and this is a very important, piece too, right? Is that, and just so y'all know my background, I'm a former Jehovah's Witness. I'm not one no more, thank goodness. But I grew up in a cult. Okay. If anybody knows what Jehovah's Witnesses are. Yeah. So this is a big warning to Jamal. This behavior, some of it is pretty hilarious, but there's actually a serious connotation to this behavior of blocking anybody that criticizes you, of pushing anybody away who has a different viewpoint, and all of this stuff, right? What you end up doing is not building a movement. You end up building a cult of personality.
And you know what?
That is not the same thing as a movement. And you will then become so delusioned, right? You will become like a younger Willie Wilson that has like these 4 diehard supporters that you can't tell them nothing about Willie, right? That just never are enough, because it's not a true movement. It's never enough to truly win these ambitious seats of Senate and president and mayor that Willie be going for, even with millions of dollars. Jamal, pay attention. Even with millions of dollars, the cult of personality is not a movement. It's not.
And these differences of opinion aren't even like nasty criticisms. They're constructive. They're trying to be helpful, because clearly, you did. And we all see the best in Jamal. So anyway, I didn't want this to sound like it's an intervention, and it's starting to sound like that. And if Jamal ever sees that, that's not what this is meant to be. And that's why I invited him on tonight, so we could have. This is not a news show. This is a commentary and analysis, people talking about things, having a conversation. And I would have loved to have him be part of this conversation. I don't necessarily think to defend himself so much as explain why he what his views are and why he chooses to go in these directions, the direction he's going in.
And that's the thing, Jerry. Like, I'm not scared to confront nobody. That's J-Mal ducking and dodging me like the IRS. Okay. I'm like, bruh, just let's talk, you know. But I really wish he would have come on, because I am not the type of person. I don't throw rocks and hide my hand. I'm like, hey, like, this is what it is. I have said stuff like about I've tagged Brandon in my stuff when I had a critique for him. Like, I don't play those types of games. And so, but one of the things is, it comes from a place, right, of hoping the best for people. It comes from this place of, if you ever get it, if you ever actually get this thing, you can do something amazing with the people, and you can help uplift the people, because that's what I care about. I'm not running for nothing but justice and freedom for my people. And if you are able to help us get there, then we will be allies in this thing. And if you need some help in moving and ebbing and flowing, then you can also receive that guidance so that you can get where you need to go. That's all.
Which reminds me, I didn't get a chance to do this at the top of the show, the way I was going to introduce Erica. But I'm going to play it now. This is what I had planned. And this is in reference to what Erica said in what Kathy says in the chat. Erica marched from Springfield to Chicago with a cross USMS. So here's a video I think that kind of speaks to what Erica is sharing here.
Anita Q. Ward running for the 5th Ward alderperson.
Yancey running for the 5th Ward, from the ward, for the ward.
Erica Nanton running for nothing but justice and freedom for my people. I'm a community organizer for St. Sabina.
Ed found that on social media, and we wanted to be able to present you before we introduced you. So
I like that better than the karaoke video we found, actually.
There was a no. Oh Lord, that's
do we have to remind you about that? We won't play it unless you want us to.
No, we're not playing it. I told you we're not playing it, Ed. I said this is a
I forgot about that. Oh my God, that is so amazing. That thing's going down tonight. Okay, that thing's getting deleted tonight.
Oh, I better download it now then.
That's funny. Oh my God. But yeah, y'all, I really think this election is so important. One of the things I'm working on right now is youth voter turnout, which is a huge thing, right? Is that, what are we going to do about it? There's actually people I see in the chat right now that's helping with this endeavor. We're actually going to the city colleges and public colleges in this city. And we're actually reaching directly to our peers, directly to youth. Like, what the heck is the problem? Why aren't you voting? We're actually recording some of their responses to make a TikTok that we're hoping will go viral. And then we're also doing an action that I think is really dope, which is to have seniors, which we are having the flyers distributed at churches, because a lot of seniors do be there. And even my church included. And it's basically like an action for seniors. It's a phone bank action. It has a little mini script that's very simple with the phone number for the Board of Elections. Because believe it or not, there are not polling places at the majority of city colleges in this city.
Oh, I believe it.
Election.
There's a reason for that.
I went to go vote at Kennedy King, which is by where I live in Inglewood. And I'm like, in early vote. And they were like, polling place. They looked at the security guard in the library, looked at me like I was talking another language. I was like, how is there not a polling place at Kennedy King College during a city election? And so that was
because Erica, then they would come out and vote.
Yeah. So I had to drive around to find my polling place. And if I wasn't so determined, that could have been very disenfranchising, if I was late for work or something, things like that. So we are fighting to get polling places in every city college and the public colleges. UIC already has one, thank goodness. I know University of Chicago is going to have one, but that's a private, school. But we're trying to get it at the public colleges and at the city colleges. And we want the seniors to help with the phone bank, because I called the Board of Elections, and of course they were like, okay, we'll get back to you. I'm like, yeah, right. So I'm going to have seniors calling in. It's a very short script. They're basically like, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a senior. I'm such and such years young. And I would like to ask the Board of Elections to put polling places in all the city and public colleges, just like you put in the senior homes. because they do put polling places in the senior homes.
Interesting. I did not know that.
There's
well, you know what?
places.
This does speak to a point that Jamal made in his 40-minute live stream today. That the Democratic Party is courting the seniors. They have the money, but they're not courting the youth. So he's absolutely right about that.
Oh yeah, Jamal's
and I would also
right
encourage people,
absolutely.
After the show, not now, people should go watch Jamal's. It's not a live stream now, but go to his Instagram or his Facebook, because I took stuff, and I didn't take stuff that was out of context, but I just took some snippets. But I do think that he talks about some of these points also, and especially in regard to the youth vote.
Absolutely. And it's just important, right? And one of the messages we really want to deliver to seniors as we go in teams to the colleges as young people, because our team is mostly young people, going into the colleges. But we wanted the seniors that are doing the phone bank action to know your time is not up. We still need you. A lot of seniors who have so much experience in all the different ebbs and flows and changes of our movements, they've come to a place where they kind of feel like, well, what do I do now? Like, is my time up in this? And we wanted to make sure to deliver a very strong message. Your time is not up. We need you. We need your voices. Because if a bunch of seniors start calling the Board of Elections, baby, that's going to be a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially when they're asking the Board of Elections to do for youth what you do for us, which is put polling places where we are, right? And so that's organizing, right? There's a level of activism to it, but that's not an Erica thing. I couldn't do this by myself. This takes a whole team of dedicated people with a vision to pull off something like this. Tons of seniors and young people and everybody, right? That's organizing. And then, we could do a press conference. We could do it. Activism is really so centered around being correct. So Jamal is correct about a lot of things, that he speaks about, but it can't just be about being right. We write about a lot of stuff, but we need to make that being right into reality. And that's organizing, right? And that's what we're trying to do on the ground right now.
You know what I'm hearing here, Erica?
What?
I'm hearing someone that I think would make the next really, really great African-American female mayor of Chicago.
Everybody, and that's another thing too. Everybody asks me to run for stuff. And I actually, just full disclosure, y'all, I have ran for office. I've ran for office twice. I've run for elected school board multiple times. And not elected school board, sorry, local school council. And then I ran for local school council advisory board. I was able to be successful all of those times. But I intentionally stepped down from those positions, from those seats, because I really felt like I needed to get back into that root work. There was too much going on that I could not make as big of an impact in those seats. I'm a spiritual person and stuff like that, so sometimes I cite scripture. But there's a scripture that says you can't put new wine into old wineskins, because if you do, the wineskin will bust. And so if I was to ever run for office, I would be like new wine. I don't code switch. I don't play no games. I represent the hood of unapologetically, but I'm into interracial coalitions. I got a biracial baby. I got a lot going on. I speak 3 languages. I got a lot going on, okay? But at the same time, I'm very unapologetic, and I speak truth, and I don't feel like there's one way a politician is supposed to be. I would be dedicated to activating these people who don't trust politics. I would be dedicated to activating them. But guess what? That's new wine in some old wineskins, and I will make that thing bust. So right now, I want to be on the ground to bring this new energy. Brandon is an example of that. Jeanette Taylor is an example of that. Rosanna Rodriguez is an example of that. This is a new wineskin being created. And you got to know, and this is something J-Mal got to learn, it's not always supposed to be you at the moment. Sometimes it's just not you at the moment. It's meant for you to do something else. And these other folks are trailblazing a path that maybe you will go on one day. But you need to be able to know when it's not your turn, it's not your time, but it's your time to be dedicated to something else that's just as important. And organizing on the ground with the people is just as important as running for office, for sure.
And I think that's also with all credit to the great accomplishments he made, bringing so much of his platform before people that other candidates actually saw eye to eye with him on, that other candidates weren't talking about. So when you talk about a moment, maybe it wasn't the moment to be mayor, but it was the moment to bring all this stuff to the forefront, like the public bank, like a lot of the other issues on his platform that people suddenly started talking about. People before this didn't know what the hell a public bank was all about. Now they understand that. They're like, yeah. And Amara Enya, where you and I met on Amara's campaign, had proposed that during her run for mayor. So,
and I believe Amara Pawar, who is treasurer, like kind of brought it out too.
Yeah.
And even that concept, public banking ain't a Jamal idea. Public banking is something that is very movement based as well. And we have to start to connect to the people who make these ideas possible in order to actually see them in reality. That's all it is, right? And I believe one thing that is super vital right now is youth engagement. Because there's two things that's killing us right now in the hood. Number one is white supremacy, and the second one is apathy. That's the two things that's killing us in the hood right now. And my thing is that to add to apathy, to me, is something that just you should not participate in when the people are already apathetic. And what Jamal's doing with this, I'm just gonna stay out of it, or I don't have, this wavering thing. That's why Dr. King talked about not being neutral in times of strife. You can't be neutral, right? Because you've chosen the side of injustice. Dr. King said that. So it's like that's apathy. You are fueling apathy in a community that already suffers with apathy, instead of figuring out a way to make this something exciting, make this something where you feel like they want to be counted. And that's the other thing. I have matured and grown since my Hillary Bernie days. Okay, because we all have.
Because we saw how we got abandoned by them.
Yes, we have. Yeah. And I'm not saying that we should have just lined up behind Hillary because of Trump. But what I am realizing when it comes to youth voting, I don't care if you write Mickey Mouse on the ballot. Okay, we need to show our butts up, because we are not being counted as legitimate sets of people who have to be respected and spoken to. We are not seeing our issues. Like, people take it out, like Brandon Johnson, his youth plan, for example. There's candidates who try to come up with something for us, but it's not the same thing as speaking directly to our demands and needs, because they see we are a big ass voting block that ain't to be played with, who decide elections. So it's not about the candidates right now. That if you find a decent candidate like Brandon, great, go for it. But right now, it's about our demographic as young people becoming one of the most explosive, largest voting bases in this country. That is going to scare the living bejesus out of this system. It don't matter what, it's just the fact that our age, when they do them tabulations of turnout, just the fact that our age group is rocking it off the charts is enough. We gonna find the perfect Jesus candidate later, okay? But right now, we need to start getting them numbers up, baby, because we make a lot of threats as young people. We shut down auditoriums, we shut down city halls, we shut down streets.
We've seen it for the past 4 years.
Exactly.
During the pandemic and all the stuff Lightfoot was pulling with the cops.
Exactly. But we need teeth with our threats. Our threats need teeth. If we say you about to lose your job, that's like one of the chants we do. You about to lose your job. That's one of our chants. How we gonna make them lose their job for real? We just out there talking shit. We don't vote.
That's the problem. Yeah, the teeth is voting.
Yes, that's it. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this. And we're gonna change it. I'm telling y'all, mark my words. We're going to change this thing. And when that happens, it's a wrap, yo. They're not going to know what to do. When young people are just voting in the most ridiculous, it's our country, it's ours. It becomes ours at that point.
Well, I've got some good news.
Oh, yeah?
Latest polling.
Yes.
Latest polling. Brandon Johnson is at 45%. 40% for Vallas, 1% other, 14% undecided. But it's that total of 15% of the others and undecided that an endorsement could really push Brandon Johnson past that 51%.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. Some of these, Jamal, Cam Buckner, I'm forgetting her name because she made no impression. Sophia King. Now, I think Sawyer ended up endorsing Vallas, which was a shock to me. But
Yeah,
Maybe not so
I
much.
mean, I don't honestly. I think Ed, you said it earlier, or maybe it was you, Jerry. One of y'all said J Mal's 15 minutes of fame is almost up.
Yeah, I said
Ed
that.
said it.
So okay, so that's kind of the dilemma he's in now. Is that his endorsement actually is losing kind of the steam, a little bit of steam and a half from this perspective, because number one, he got two sets of people right now because of his wavering and indecisiveness. He has those diehard J Mal fans that he has now created a sense of apathy in, like the apathy we talked about, and they are encouraging him just stay neutral. Now the diehards are just like, just stay out of it, J Mal, because they see the kind of backlash he's getting and stuff. And so his diehards have adopted this apathy from his indecisiveness. Now they want him to stay neutral. And then the other people that's not in the cult that got some clarity is like, are you serious? This ain't a hard decision. You know, like the movement folks, they're like, Brandon's obviously the better decision. We're talking about there's good things about Vallas. And it's like what? Like his son being a part of a 3-team of white police in Texas that murdered a black man.
I have no fucking clue what he's talking about, that there are good things about what because he has a business background and because you're an entrepreneur businessman and you respect that.
That's all it is.
That's all that is all it is, because every city he's gone to, they've thrown him out of. And if I hope he loses this election, he'll pack up his bag and go to another city and put his show on there.
And put his show there. Exactly. So that's the problem when it comes to J Mal in particular's endorsement. It is losing like a steam to it, where now his diehards are apathetic. He's helped create that apathy in them to where now they don't want him to endorse either way. And then the ones that are clear are like, don't you dare come out here and supporting Vallas. Like, you will lose all credibility.
Oh, it'll be over for his career.
So he's kind of now in a rock and a hard place. And like,
if he, so do you think maybe he was
created that?
Maybe he was leaning that way, and now he's seen there was no way he was going to have a future if he decided to do that.
Exactly. And now he's kind of stuck, like, as we say, stuck like Chuck. So that's that. I don't think that, honestly, J Mal's endorsement is going to make a super big impact in the way that it may have if he came out strongly early for somebody. But then with Chewy, on the other hand, I do actually think, yeah, exactly.
I've heard he's probably going to lean towards Brandon.
The progressive in the race.
Yeah.
I'm getting so sick of this damn word progressive.
Yeah, well, it's been bastardized, Erica. It used to be a good thing, and it's been co-opted by people who aren't progressives, like most of the Democrats in Congress, the squad. And I mean, progressive is a good word, but too many people have twisted it into something that's not. I heard that there was some speculation that he's probably going to vote. He's probably going to endorse Johnson, but he's taking too long to give his endorsement. Is the problem?
He is, and
Who's the progressive from Congress who's got his nest feathered. He ran back because this was going to be a move sideways for him. Now, he had the opportunity to run when the teachers union asked him, but he's like, no, I want to make sure I'm in Congress. And now, he didn't get them. He had it made either way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we had one of our aldermen, Andre Vasquez, who was a very staunch Chewy supporter, did get behind Brandon. So I'm thinking if Chewy does make an endorsement, he's going to be stuck into making the endorsement for Brandon, whether he wants to endorse Vallas or not.
Chewy is super stuck because the one reason that Chewy is painting himself in a corner, I believe, is because he touted the Harold Washington Rainbow Coalition so hard. Yeah. Like, he would not let Harold Washington rest in peace. Okay. And so him depicting that Harold Washington narrative so much in his campaign, right? He now has another black man, right? And it's like, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, Chewy. But but at the same time, like, you can't be mad at that, like, yeah, maybe you wish you could have done it, and now you gotta relive the 80s, but and that sucks or whatever. But like, all of the younger Latino progressives, because I don't know if y'all know, Chewy was really trying to build up this Latina political machine, like Delia Ramirez, and different young Latinos. But they've actually now broken, like Andre Vasquez and they've now broken from that Chewy machine, like no longer letting him be the godfather, right? and he lost all his like all of his ones that he was kind of like, I guess, molding or trying to help bring up, and they went with Brandon as Latino people saying no, we're in, and there's not one of them that couldn't have been selfish and said no, it should be me, right? And Brandon made a very good point. He demonstrates he can build a rainbow coalition because of the fact he got all of these people on government office levels who were Latino and brown people who could have easily been like, no, it should be me, and ran instead. But they were like, no, it's you, Brandon, it's you. And the fact that they were able to do that is helping to build this coalition. Chewy is now stuck with the fact that like he almost has no choice but to go this way. And I think the dragging it out that he's doing by his silence is only because of like, that's the only form of protest he can really give right now.
He has to support Johnson. If he doesn't, it's going to say everything about
everything
who he really is.
Everything.
I mean, look, I can't see him supporting Vallas because he can't. He can't. But if he withholds an endorsement altogether, that's going to say just as much.
It's just as damaging. That's why I said so. Chewy is stuck. Now, are y'all ready to talk about Lori?
We ready? Are we ready?
Somebody say my name.
Y'all be going in on that lady on this show. Y'all talk about me with J-Ball. Y'all be roasting the heck out of Lori on this show.
Yeah, but here's okay. So yeah, you know what? Lori has no excuse. I look at Jamal Young and his career, and it's like he's making mistakes that sometimes young people will make, and that's not a slam on young people. Yeah. I'm an old person and I make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
But look, Lori Lightfoot, her arrogance, her thin skin, her contempt, and utter disrespect for the citizens of Chicago, the way that she's fooled them, is why we're a little bit harsher on Lori than we would ever be on any of the other candidates. aside from Paul Cornholio Vallas.
So I think with Lori, she is not as much in a conundrum as Chewy is, because he wanted to Harold Washington his way through the campaign, and now you got a junior, black dude that's like running a rainbow coalition and it's looking real messed up if you don't do that. But with Lori on the other hand, I don't think it would be as impactful or hurtful to her if she endorsed nobody.
Nobody cares because nobody cares about her.
Did you miss my exclusive endorsement on Chicago Corner? Nobody saw that?
Yeah. And honestly,
excuse me, ma'am. We think your endorsement cut out at the end. Are you freaking kidding me?
Y'all something else. But I do feel like her supporting Vallas is a no-go. Don't see that one. I do not see that one.
No, she's not going to support him, but she's not going to support anybody. You know what? It's no one's going to care. So my cousin, who's in the live chat, is constitutional conservative. He decided to troll Ed and I last night. He texted me, Lori Lightfoot, she endorsed Vallas. And I texted Ed, I'm like, apparently Lori Lightfoot has endorsed Vallas. And Ed was kind of crestfallen. He's like, oh no. And I'm like, no, that's good. If Lori endorses Vallas, it's the kiss of death.
That is like, honestly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was like, I'm glad Jerry brought it up to me that way. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't want to see her endorsing Brandon either. I wanted to just slither away into the night.
Like, think about this, because then all the cognitive dissonance of Vallas's supporters.
Yeah, right?
That was funny as hell.
Like,
all the cognitive dissonance.
They're going to be very confused. Very confused.
They're going to be like, thank you.
No, Kathy. She has not endorsed anyone.
No,
yeah,
but
Lou was just playing with us.
Yeah, because Lou was all pissed off that the Lori Lightfoot endorsement video that we shared on our YouTube the other day cut off before she made her endorsement. So he decided he was gonna punk us, and I went for it. We had a meeting last night, and I'm like, shit, should we break in and do a live stream? And then we're looking on the news, and I'm like, there's no news about Lori Lightfoot endorsing Paul Vallas. And then Lou says, no, I was just punking you guys because you guys made me watch that 30-second, 1-minute video of her going to endorse someone, and she didn't really endorse someone. I'm like, it's a joke, Lou.
Yeah, he was pissed that it cut off at the end right before she made the endorsement that she didn't make.
But honestly, though, like Lori called Paul Vallas racist at least 76 times a day.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way she can endorse that man. And then she even said, any vote that's not for Lori Lightfoot or something, you ain't, like one of those President Biden, you ain't black.
Yeah.
She was like, any on the south or the west side, you ain't black.
Let's play this just to remind people, as well as Erica, our audience, and Erica, Lori's endorsement video.
Hello, my name is Lori Lightfoot, and I am no longer running for mayor. I'm actually recording this from my new job as a... Hold on, I have to take this. Welcome to Lortillo's. Are you picking up a mobile order?
I told you to stop calling it that. The restaurant name starts with a P, not an L.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You did not order onion rings. It clearly says crinkle fries and a cake shake. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh, while I am no longer in the running, I do realize that it is endorsement season. And since I did have some support in the primary, mostly from people not paying very close attention, I would like to, at this time, announce that I will fully support the candidate who most reflects the spirit of my broken campaign promises, as I hope they will actually be able to follow through on them, instead of just providing lip service and mostly empty gestures. And that candidate is...
You are watching the Tuesday night edition of Chicago Corner. Woo!
Oh, that was the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, funny. But I just a pro tip, y'all. I love y'all, but y'all gonna have to start getting some black people to do them voiceovers when it's a black face.
You want to provide them for us?
If you want to come in and do some impressions, you're welcome.
Just a pro tip. You heard
I just, it's just I realized that I had a pretty raspy voice and I didn't have to try super hard to talk like Lori Lightfoot, and I'm like, okay.
And you know what? We also I actually reached out to, who's that comic who does Lori Lightfoot?
Oh yeah, I
reached out to her. I never heard back from her.
Lisa Beasley.
Lisa Beasley.
She endorsed Brandon. She's really funny.
Well, I'll tell you something. Honestly, Erica, before we started doing the Lori Lightfoot jokes, I reached out to Lisa to come on the show, and I never heard from her because I thought that her Lori Lightfoot impression was chef's kiss. Hilarious.
Oh, yeah. But she has an amazing show. She actually did at the Laugh Factory. I actually went to go see with my friend, and like it was hilarious. She's dope. Yeah. I mean, but there's
she had a farewell concert for Lori Lightfoot, the way she spells it, on Monday night, and I'm sad that I didn't get out to see it.
And I like, it reminds me, I have a friend, actually I think he's a really cool person. He happens to be a white dude, Italian, and he ran for alderman in a really predominantly black ward. And I actually supported his opponent, right? But the thing is, I know him a little more, and his ideas are a little more like revolutionary. But it's like, why, like, oh, you just going with your other dude because he's black? But I've worked with the other guy too, right? But the thing that I always have a conversation with somebody first. I don't just make, decision. And I talked with him, and I was like, you mean to tell me in this neighborhood, you basically in the hood, you couldn't find one black person more qualified to do this than you?
Mm.
And like, that just really, as good as your ideas are, as dope as your ideas are, that makes me a little concerned about your capacity to truly connect, especially to the younger people in the community, right? Because it's like, trust me. And then he basically said, well, I asked like 6 people and they all declined or something to that effect, or none of them wanted to do it. And I was like, yeah, I get it, like your circle or whatever, but like, that's a circle you have, But as far as the community, right, you find those hidden gems in Black communities by going outside of your circle and actually being where the people are. And then you start hearing certain Black people speak up. You start hearing other Black people crack jokes. You start seeing other people's comedy content, and this is just I love y'all's show, but this is just an advice overall for my white creatives and like awesome white friends and stuff that do these great shows is like when you have a dominated white show and you want to cover like anything like with Black folks, it's like have a way that you're actively reaching out for Black talent, because trust me, we're out there.
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment because you just provided me the perfect opening. As I mentioned, I really did reach out to Lisa Beasley, and I never heard from her. Unfortunately, I was hoping that she would want to be like a regular part of the show. Mm-hmm. But when I invited you to come on tonight, we've talked about exactly what you're talking about right now before amongst ourselves. Ed, me, and Kira McCown, who knows you.
Kira.
We were in our meeting last night. Yeah. We have wanted to integrate more diversity on the show in the way that you are describing. And before you came on tonight, the open invitation to be a regular contributor to Chicago Corner and join us at your convenience. It's not a commitment. You have to be here when we do every show, but anytime, Erica, there's something that you want to share that you feel is important, that represents the interests of the communities that you're talking about, I want you here. Or if you want to be on Tuesdays or Fridays with us regularly, if you have the time to. Unfortunately, none of us get paid.
Yeah, no, I understand.
No, I would love for you to be a regular here. So to that point that you make, it's funny because I told Ed before the show, it's like, yeah, when we're getting to the end of her segment, I want to invite her to like be a regular here. So
yeah, okay. And with one caveat, I am down actually. Especially, if I can do it at my convenience, because I got a small child. I'm super busy with organizing work, but I definitely would love to come on. Especially when there's something really vital happening, particularly that's affecting my communities of color, Black communities, or things that connect with white communities and stuff. I would love to talk about that stuff. But one caveat is that y'all will allow me to recommend y'all other people.
Sure.
I would love to have their voices amplified and their talent amplified, and just kind of like really bridge that gap of y'all's exposure to the depth, right, of the gifts in our community that do not really get an audience. Because I run into it all the time, and if you guys are open to that, I would love to be that connector.
So we're completely open because we are always telling people, arm. We have an open guest policy forever. We're telling people from every neighborhood, every community, if you want to come on our show, tell us and we'll bring you on. The problem, Eric, is not enough people know about us.
Yeah.
Okay? We have no advertising, no marketing, no social media coordinator. It's me and Ed. So while we are making those entreaties on our shows, we want to integrate and bring in more people from all over the city and not even just talk about politics.
Yeah.
If you have people that you want to come on, just point them our way. You got my email, my direct message. I'm completely open because we want to be able to bring more people onto the show to showcase all the communities, not just the ones that we live in. Although we're commenting on those that we feel are abandoned and wrongfully so, that those communities are abandoned. So
absolutely. And I think you guys are going to also learn a lot too. I think the guests will learn a lot. It's a great experience. It's a great way to grow as media folks, artists. I consider this an art form, media presentation and what you guys do. And I work with a lot of artists and musicians and, different types of art forms. So like if y'all are down, I think that's going to take the show to another level that would actually reach diverse communities that would never otherwise know it. But because they're homie or somebody who's known on our block or somebody who's known in our community is going to be on the show, then you get a whole new set of viewers. You get a whole new set of watchers and listeners who can then begin to participate in these conversations.
Yep, she gets it. We get it too, Kathy. I'm really glad that she came on so we can make this arrangement and be able to start embracing that and growing the show that way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how long I've been talking with our group, like off screen. I'm like, we got to work on some diversity for this show. Let's find some more people who want to get on a stream and speak their piece. Let people talk about all the other stuff going on in the city. You know. I recognize that I have privilege. I recognize that I am somewhat sheltered from certain parts of the city, even though I do have a job where I commute back and forth from the north side to the south side, and I do see the disparity and the differences just by dodging potholes, frankly. But I mean, and looking at buildings that are worn down. I'm like, there's got to be other people who want to talk about this stuff.
Absolutely. There's y'all just, man, listen. Yeah. Trust me, there is. And one thing I appreciate about this show is like the song "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself." You know,
of course.
Like, you know, you guys, like, you let people be themselves, which is really dope. And I think that's like, it makes the show very interesting. And I'm sorry, I'm just the organizer at heart, y'all. I came up in here and organized your dang show, okay? But it's just what I do, you know. It's my heart. It's my heart to see people connect, but also grow, politically educate and learn. But we can do it in love, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, Ed, I know you wasn't trying to hurt me in any way with that video. You legitimately thought it was funny, and it was funny-ish, you know. But it was just, there's a thing that happens as a Black person when you see certain things. It's like a little prick. It's like you feel like a little like prick in your side, like this. It's like this feeling of like being a caricature. You know, I'm watching another Black person be a caricature of a white person's voice, and it's like, even though I have a personal feelings about Lori, I'm looking at me when that was happening. Like, I'm looking at somebody that looks like me. Yeah.
Let me just say something though. When I see or hear Lori Lightfoot, I am not, and this is just me, I'm not seeing the color of her skin. She could be white, and I would be like, you're doing the same kind of damage to the city. I don't think her blackness, her color has anything to do when we're mocking her. Okay, I understand the analogy to the fact it's kind of like a blackface doing the voice, but I don't hear a Black voice there. I hear the voice when we're mocking her. It's the voice of someone who has turned their backs on so many people in so many neighborhoods in the city, and I'm mocking her leadership. It doesn't have anything to do.
Yeah, and I think there's space for people, like everybody, no matter what your color, creed, or anything, to be able to give political critique. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And political stuff. But it's like, I had issues with Obama, for example, right? But guess what? I also had issues with them people that had the Obama puppet. You know, what was called? The Tea Party.
The tea bagger. I call them the tea baggers.
Tea baggers or whatever. But like, and it's like, I was younger back then, so I wasn't as politically aware of everything. But so I wasn't like knowing as much that they were like white supremacists. I just saw some white people with a caricature, you know what I'm saying, of a Black.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're making
critique,
caricature,
you know.
Well, I think when they caricature, I don't know that we've ever caricatured her aside from just do the funny voices and use a picture of her. I understand what you're saying when they like would do horrible like visual caricatures or cartoons of Obama or other Black leaders. That's taking it to that point of like, yeah, it's racist. I mean, it's clearly racist when the teabaggers are doing that. They're mocking his Afro ethnicity is what they're doing. They're putting a spotlight on it like it's something that should be mocked. No, I don't think that's what should be mocked. I think what should be criticized is a lot of the things that he's done to abandon people, and they have nothing to do with presenting a funny cartoon or a visual caricature of him.
Yeah, and I think so. One of the things which it annoys me sometimes, because I think J-Mal misuses it a lot, for example, is like calling white progressives racist. Like, the racist white progressives are attacking me. Like, this idea that there's racism on the left and the right with white people, but that is true.
That's true. It absolutely is true. Yeah.
But the thing that folks have to understand is it's different flavors. I'm giving y'all like a very like Black person perspective, like who experiences it, right?
That's fine.
And so the experience is like experiencing two flavors of the same ice cream, right? And it's like, yes, the Trump supporters are going to make a doll of Obama or make a poster of him looking like a witch doctor, right? They're gonna do that type of ish.
They did it. I remember seeing those on social media.
And that's what they do. Whereas with the white progressive side, the way that it sometimes comes out is the absolute unwillingness to see us, and the fact that you are dealing with an impacted person at all, because it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient in that moment to recognize my Blackness. And so that's the progressive way it's done. It's like, I will recognize that you're Black when it's convenient for me. But not when it's not. And that's kind of how it comes out on the progressive side.
Okay.
You know, you wouldn't do like a witch doctor thing or like some like off the wild, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's the difference. And I think it's important that these conversations are had, because like at the same, like if I was on a podcast right now with some Trump supporters, they would be getting probably cussed the heck out. You know what I'm saying? I would still be making my point validly, but it would not be this kind of energy, right? Energy matters. And my energy right now is love, because like I feel like y'all are part of a movement family with me and what y'all are trying to do. And so like if you have a disagreement or whatever, we can handle it like this and like really pour into like each other's perspectives. Listen, like I heard y'all out because I also wanted to understand, how do y'all actually see this, right? And I wouldn't know that unless I actually listen to your responses. So that's how we grow. That's how we learn, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ed, we're retiring the Lori Lightfoot.
You know, it's fine. We were done with it anyway. She's leaving.
She's gone.
I mean, really, I mean, all we were doing was mocking a clear abuse of power and a lack of accountability.
But I understand. Yeah, but I understand.
But I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, I'm one of them people. I'm one of them allies, or whatever you want to call it. That like, I'm like, baby, please do something about it when you meet me, because there's some other black radicals that if they see that, I can't save you. Okay.
Yeah. No, I know.
I can't save you.
I used to, you know,
please listen to me first.
Yeah. I remember when we were working on Amara's campaign, I think I was probably, as far as I can remember, one of her only white volunteers, and I used to like joke, and I'm the token honky in the group. I have no problem referring to myself as that.
I can't.
But you know, that's I have no problem, because like Ed said, we do recognize we've had privilege, so it's not as impactful on our psyches as other things have been with African Americans. So I completely get that.
Yeah, and I appreciate y'all too, because I think it takes a lot. It takes a lot to hear, especially I think even more so with the progressive side as a white person, because you do have like the good intentions. You do really actually, like I said, white people are at a war with each other that they need to be in, right? Yeah. And it's like, you know, like I one of my favorite ancestors, if you will, that I connect to spiritually is Harriet Tubman, right? And at the end of the day, was there some racists in the Union Army? Absolutely, right? Yeah. But Harriet Tubman fought with the Union Army, because if you think I'm finna fight with the Confederates that want to keep me enslaved, you got me effed up, okay? So guess what? She was General Tubman, and she fought on the Union side, because we gonna get us free, baby. And right now, there is a Confederate and Union battle going on between the white people of this country. And we as Black people need to step up and become generals and begin to organize ourselves as well on the correct end of the spectrum. Now, once the Union wins, are we at the promised land? Hell to the no. After the Union won, Black people still had a ways to go, but the Union needed to win, baby. Okay, not the Confederate Army. So there's like levels to this, and that's where we are, I believe, right now. And we need to win this war.
Well, also in the mayoral election, you have to make your alliance with the Union or the Confederate. I mean, whether, you know, there are some bad people on one side, there are less bad people on that side than the other side. So
yeah, and at the end of the day, the objective that's connected to it, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, the slaves was rooting for the Union, not because there wasn't some Union soldiers that didn't call them N-words. Not that there wasn't Union troops that recruited Black slaves to be in the troops and were whipped. They would get whipped as punishment, and you in the army, right? So you're dealing with all this race, but at the same time, it was about the objective of ending the institution of slavery as a bare freaking minimum. And that is where we're at right now. Taxing the rich is a bare freaking minimum win.
Yep.
That's a bare minimum win. Getting stop focusing and investing so much in policing instead of our communities is a bare freaking minimum right now. So we need to do that first, right? Even though if we know that everybody ain't there yet, Lincoln didn't do it because he loved Black people so much. He literally said, if you look at Abraham Lincoln's quotes, he said that he doesn't believe that that the white man is inferior to the black, or that the black man is equal to the white man. That he doesn't believe that, and he said if he could keep slavery alive and keep the Union alive, he'd do it. If he has to, he was all about just keeping the United States together, and he was clear on that. It wasn't about loving black people or thinking we were equal human beings. So but guess what? Thank you for signing that paper. Thank you for signing that space proclamation. I know that's right. Okay, so it's there's layers to this, and we got to just be clear where we're trying to head, where we're trying to go, and kind of work together. The difference is that I'm not dealing with that bad of a situation with y'all, for example. I believe that y'all took that in. It's just that I forgot what it's called. But it's there is a wound. Okay, let me try to give you an example. Remember I told you I felt a prick in my side? It felt like a prick in my heart in my side, like a literal thing that I felt when I saw the caricature and the voiceover. Hard to explain, right? It's because it literally said that trauma is in our DNA as Black people from slavery. It was so intense that we hold traumas that weren't even ours in our DNA. So we feel things sometimes that we can't even put a finger on, right? But at the same time, it's a smaller version of it. But the way that y'all felt when you recognized what I was saying made me feel the way I felt. That little prick you felt, right? It's a very much smaller version than the ones that we feel every day.
Yeah, no, I completely
just
understand.
So you can have an example, that feeling of your heart sinking, that feeling of oh shit, it's like that, right? Except we have to deal with that shit every other 5 freaking seconds. That's the difference,
Yeah, it's being put on a defensive and realize, for reasons that were never ill-intentioned,
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah, this is a great show.
Well, thank you. It's better now that you're here. So where do we go from here with the whole point of the endorsements and stuff? I mean, I think we've kind of covered everything that needed to be covered as far as the endorsements, why it's so crucial right now. If you're not going to endorse, don't endorse. But if you are, hurry up and get to it, because Commissioner Johnson. Oh, this is what I was going to mention. It blows me away when you were talking about something we talk about here all the time. It's you don't need to continue funding the police. It's not defund the police. It's reallocate the resources. The people across the city of Chicago who think it makes more sense to throw more money at the police while they're screaming about the fact that the school budgets don't need to go up. Right? They don't understand the importance of putting more money into school budgets or putting more money into infrastructure to help support youth, because the solution is always the cops will be around to put kids in jail.
That's an old ploy, and it plays on the
I know.
And honestly, too, this is another thing too. People, we all know what the word dog whistle means in politics.
Yep.
There's a big ass dog whistle in this election right now, in this mayoral race, and that dog whistle is: do you believe that Black people are the problem with the city of Chicago?
The dog whistle is:
do you believe that Black people are a part of
the dog whistle is you need to fund more cops. Is the dog whistle for, because there are a lot of Black people committing crimes.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell people.
Said when that's what Vallas is saying.
That's a big ass dog whistle. Don't nobody. When you say Chicago crime, there ain't a damn person that pictures a white face. Even though there's a ton of white people doing crime over here, but they doing the big crimes that steal all our pensions and shit. But but at the same time, it's no one when you hear a Chicago crime, no matter what race you are, Latino, white, Black, you think of a Black person. That's
exactly what the dog whistle is for, from Paul. And that's why
exactly it's a damn dog whistle.
He was a joke last election.
Yeah.
Nobody took him seriously, but he was the only white face this election.
Exactly.
And then he's stoking the fears of a lot of white people who think, look, he's the only one who's going to help solve the problem of crime, which is affiliated with Blacks and bad communities. And they're moving northward now. So I got into it with someone on Facebook who said, he's going to make things safer downtown, because all the crime, not the Black people, but all the crime is heading into downtown and the north side. And I'm like, Why do you think it's heading to the north and the side in downtown? Because the communities that the crime is coming from have been abandoned.
Yes.
There's no opportunities there. So don't you think it makes more sense to spend less money on the cops to protect downtown on the north side and start investing and putting money into those communities so that there aren't desperate people that that drift towards crime if it is coming from that side of town, as you're inferring.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And like, don't nobody want to talk about that large, loud dog whistle in this race. And then people got the nerve to say, oh, they're only voting for Brandon because he's black. Oh, why did y'all vote for Paul Vallas? I'll wait, because he was the only white dude in the race.
Voting for Brandon Johnson because I think he's going to give everybody's going to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that he's coming from a union that is so crucial in helping young people, they are educators.
Yeah,
so much the better.
Yeah, who's better to help with the problem? And the average age of the carjackers out here is 14. 14?
Now, if Willie Wilson had won the runoff and it was Willie Wilson and Brandon Johnson, it's like, there's no way. And look, Brandon Johnson is the same as Paul Vallas. They're thick as thieves. It doesn't matter what the color of their skin is. They're both elitist millionaires, and they're going to be serving private interests.
Thank you.
So simple as that. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin. It's like, what has their history shown us? And the history of Paul Vallas has shown me he's a liar. He's failed in every other city that he's performed in. He carpet-bagged into town and he's renting a bachelor pad so that he could run for mayor of the city of Chicago, a city he's never lived in.
Exactly.
To serve his private donors. And what has Brandon Johnson done? He's an organizer.
Been on the ground, actually.
Right? How the differences could not be starker as far as
and I think that's great. That's a great thing as far as the victories that we fought so hard for, right? On the ground, is that stark contrast, right? It gives us a chance to really make a powerful narrative. That's why Brandon really got to do the damn thing at these debates. I said he kind of be like political educator in chief with a little, but put a little spice on it, put a little swag on it, Brandon. You know, don't bore us.
We're going to do some debate recaps. I mean, speaking of the debates, Johnson absolutely trounced Vallas. Vallas was sputtering at every response, and he didn't refute a lot of the claims, legitimate factual claims that Johnson made about him.
Yeah,
which just goes to he's. I mean, he looked like a dog with his tail between his legs.
Vallas couldn't. And we're talking about DeSalvo, right? Yeah, the DeSalvo debate.
Yeah, the one 2 days ago.
Yeah, so Brandon did so well in that debate. The way that he just went really hard for Black folks in particular, and people of color, the way that he like really was so unapologetic. And this is another thing, like Black people pick up on stuff. Black people pick up on things sometimes that maybe white people might not notice, but it was a big discussion in the Black community. Paul Vallas did a little, he did a microaggression, like a thing that we heard it loud and clear. After Brandon went in on Paul Vallas on something, one of his talking points, and he really went hard, Paul Vallas responded with, okay, I'm going to respond in a way that doesn't scare people. What I say next. And it was like, wow, not the angry Black man trope. Is that where we're going, Paul Vallas?
And you know what, though, Erica? I don't have a problem with an angry Black man. Because Black men have a lot to be angry about.
I was like, meanwhile, Brandon had the people on their feet. And I was like, you know, and it's like that's red meat for his racist, white supremacist voter base. But that's not gonna work for the rest of us who would love it and understand that Black people have every right to be angry. And then secondly, don't have a problem with it, but actually love to see the rawness and the realness and the unapologetic willingness to fight for our people. Like, that's actually a positive to so many people to see in somebody running for office. So Paul Vallas doing that little microaggression, little dog whistle shit that he tried is actually just red meat for his white supremacist base. But what happened is it backfired on him because the Black people in the audience heard that loud and clear, what he be on and how he operates.
There was a telling moment at the very end of the debate also when it was over with and they shook hands. Johnson was clearly trying to make eye contact with him, and Vallas was like looking away and looking down.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Paul Vallas' body language is horrible.
Absolutely. Well, not only horrible, very, very telling.
Telling. That's a good word.
Are you able to stick around so we can go through some of these the debate recap highlights and have to do some commentary on it?
I
I don't know what your
probably-
time is like.
Yeah, I can do like maybe another 5 minutes.
I think that's about how long the segment is.
Okay.
Yeah, Ed, why don't you cue that?
Okay.
This comes to us from. This was from
NBC Chicago.
NBC Chicago, yes, NBC Chicago.
Yes.
Chicago's top 2 candidates for mayor went
Speaking
head-to-head
of
in
the
their
debates.
first forum.
That's right. Now, our very own Marianne Aher moderated the discussion here
Pause it.
of the issues that are facing.
Or as I like,
oh crap!
Or as I like to call her, Marianne A-hole. But go
Easy now.
I can't stand that woman. Go ahead.
Yeah, she does have some.
She seemed a little biased in the first one.
That's
Yeah,
why
that's
I
what
call
I
her
was gonna
that.
say.
Yeah, she's been biased. She was biased during Amara's campaign, and I think that she's had a condescension towards Jamal when I saw her doing interviews with him. Also, I just think that she's one of those Vallas leaning types of people.
And I could tell this set because like there's class, right? There's the poor working class, and then you got the elite and all that, and the quote unquote middle class, whatever. But there's a class we don't talk about a lot, which is the managerial class.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
like it's like
The
that in
PMCs.
between. They're not the elite. You get what I'm saying? Like they're those people that make 6 figures, but they don't have like $1 million. You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
like those are news reporters. Those are TV news reporters.
Yeah.
And
by the way, have unions protecting them while they're decrying all the unions that they don't think should have the same rights and privileges and protections that they have working in media. I've always found that very interesting, especially over on Fox News.
Just like
the anti-union rhetoric when SAG and AFTRA are unions and newscasters have to work through SAG or AFTRA because it's media.
that is such a good point. And also peep their body language and the way they exude when they ask Brandon that, so is it true you're going to tax people who make $100,000? Like the way that their voices like escalate, like that's the real thing they freaking care about, right? This rumor that, and like, I don't understand. In the city of Chicago, that's not a lot of money, right? So,
well, that's what they claim. They do have a lot of money. They just don't want to share it or put it where it needs to go.
Exactly. And so it's like, but for the poor and the dispossessed community and divested community, the average person does not make that kind of money. That's the managerial class.
Right. And it's interesting too, because that's all I hear about is, oh, he's going to raise our taxes. It's like taxes are the least important thing to worry about right now when the rest of the city is on fire.
Yes.
When the rest of these neighborhoods are not being invested in, and the not addressing the root causes of crime by investing and creating opportunities for young people, whether it's through youth centers or through creating jobs. You create jobs, you create a jobs program, you get people and help young people find what they're good at that they enjoy doing.
Thank you. Because it could be music and art. And I love that Brandon has an art platform that's specifically geared towards artists.
We were talking about trades. A lot of people love carpentry, plumbing, and those are very well paying jobs. And we're not saying that
university is not for everyone, right?
That's right.
And so it's like giving more options, because then these same bougie folks that work at NBC that make a decent wage or whatever, that don't want to pay no higher taxes, then you mad that you get robbed and carjacked by a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Go sit down. Go sit down. Because that's what you pay taxes then.
Why?
That's what you pay the taxes then. You know what I'm saying? Because it all could have been avoided, because that 14-year-old could have been in an after-school program.
That's right.
Learning to play a guitar.
Yep.
And ain't got time to pick up no gun. And you could have went about your merry way without getting jacked.
Play the video. I'm going to remove my, well, actually, go ahead. I have to do an eye drop thing because my eye's bugging out. So.
Okay.
Excuse me here, but go ahead.
Head-to-head in their first forum.
That's right. Now, our very own Marianne Aher moderated the discussion here of the issues that are facing the voters. NBC5's Lisa Chavarria joins us in studio here with some of those highlights. A lot was covered.
A lot was covered, guys, and if you missed it, we've got you covered. So Paul Vallas and Brandon Johnson, they were asked to give a short list of their replacement for Chicago Police Superintendent. Although neither candidate answered that, they did talk about their plans to make Chicagoans feel safer.
Also, they're not supposed to pick those. They're supposed to get a choice to pick from for people who don't know how that's supposed to work.
Did y'all see that comment that just popped up?
I just shared it. Yeah, that's what I had read, and I didn't remember the specific fact, but that's why I call her Marianne A-hole, because her husband does comms for CPD. Yeah.
Well,
that's
there
what I'm talking
you go.
about. Her leaning towards
of course
the managerial Vallas crowd.
Of course, does, because she think about that what's it called, alimony, whatever, because now her husband's job is connected to whatever happens with CPD investments or bringing more. Because like, here's the thing: if you got a pro cop candidate that's about, it's gonna be tons of the cop stuff going on and coverage and communications regarding the police, all that stuff, and they want to know, and that's why she was like, so basically the police are not going to be a priority. Well, I remember this one interview she did with Brennan. So basically, you're saying the police are not going to be a priority. They're like, girl, calm down. But now it makes sense.
Well, let's keep in mind too. He might be her ex now, but he was doing comms when they were married. So that tells me where her alignments are.
Yeah, and where she spent her relationships and everything like that.
And to say, oh, they're not going to be a priority. Well, the only priority toward them is to redirect their funds and responsibilities. Because clearly they are a reactive force, right? They react to crime. They don't stop crime generally. I'm generalizing, but I'm like,
we've said this
happens because then they show up. Maybe they
right.
show up.
This whole idea that we're going to put more cops on the street and crime's going to go down. Oh yeah. Well, you think a cop's going to be in front of everybody's door and across the city and stop when it happens? And for all the money we've thrown into the police department for the past several decades, Chicago should be the safest city in the world, and it's not.
Yeah,
and it's not exactly
with all the money that's going towards them. That's not going where it should go.
It's a complete disregard for the way that things actually work, because what it is the truth is they see it as a way of corralling Black folks. And I think the analogy I use, if you look at the history of Cabrini Green, which is like even in the 90s with Cabrini Green, Paul Vallas wants to return to those days of policing. Cabrini Green got treated like a concentration camp.
Oh, sure. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And,
yep.
And it was like about containing Black people going through security. Like, meanwhile, on the north side in the white neighborhoods, they skipping around like it's Mayberry, right? And it's like, we got to live in these military encampments. And it's all, and this is a thing. I don't know if y'all don't come to the hood often, let me explain something that what is like the day in the life every day.
Can I interrupt you just one moment? Mm-hmm. I'm down there twice a week editing that documentary for my client, Valerie Goodlows. And the documentary is about gun violence. So I know what I mean.
Okay.
I do go through there, Erica. Yeah, I mean, I'm down there. So that's why I'm probably more hypersensitive to the things we're talking about and aware of them.
Yeah. And it's like, for example, when I go to the dollar store over here, right? Like right here near Inglewood, the first thing that happens when the sliding doors opens, it says, you are now being surveilled by the Super Monitor Computer Program System.
Wow.
When you walk in. And then
that doesn't happen up here.
Then when you go to get your deodorant or your soap or anything, it's all locked up behind glass. And you have to like bother an attendant who's already overworked to come open it for you just to get deodorant and soap. But then when I go to the white neighborhood, I just grab it off the shelf like a regular person. On the way, that's just in the store. Then on the way, leaving the store, you see Black people that look like you getting pulled out of their cars by police and humiliated and treated like criminals. Now, I'm raising a child in this environment. From the child, my baby's 3. From the time of a toddler, he is seeing Black people he is going through security things. He's hearing a robot greet him. You are being watched. You thieving motherfucker. That's what it sounds like it's saying, right? And like, and then
it's clearly assuming everybody's going to commit a crime there.
Yes.
We don't have the recordings up here, but I will say in some Walgreens on the north sides, I have to ask somebody to unlock the deodorant panel. They do that along. I mean, I think it's we're
being surveilled everywhere. They are watching us everywhere, but you're clearly making the point that
it's in hyperdrive down there.
They are paying attention to demographics in the different areas, and they're intentionally letting you know that they're watching you.
Exactly. And that's the thing that is like what Paul Vallas is presenting as his plan is so freaking terrifying, because it's already like that now. And this is another thing. What's the logic of this? We need almost 2,000 more police officers, thousands of more police officers, but we're going to have personal relationships with the beat cop. Everybody's going to know their police. How the hell are we supposed to have these quote unquote howdy doody Mayberry ass personal relationships when you sending in motherfucking troops?
Unless
troops, you
or
are
unless
not
you're
sending
gonna
in no one beat cop that's skipping down the street with a little baton.
And that would require that would also require that you require the officers to live in the communities that they're policing. We asked a couple people at the first mayoral forum that we covered back at the Copernicus Center a couple months back, how they felt about putting forth an initiative that the police officers should live in the communities that they police. So they are looking at the members of that community as neighbors, not as they're looked at as the cops are looked at as neighbors and not an occupying force. Because if you're looking at each other as neighbors, you're probably going to be able to build bridges better and at least have a little bit more of a better chance there.
Can I keep it 100 with y'all?
Sure.
If somebody was truly from the community, like real, they wouldn't want to be a police officer.
Okay. All right. So fair enough.
So that's already a red flag for me.
Okay.
Because if you the type of Black person that desires, if you really know what be going on around here, and you even have the desire to be basically a slave catcher, but you want to make sure that we know you want, I don't know what that's supposed to be. Like, and you're talking to the daughter of a retired officer, and people are shocked when I tell them that. I am the daughter of a 28-year retired Black officer in Florida. And I have these views. Why? Because my father is also a radical revolutionary who he got his job during the time of the 1994 crime bill. And he was driving a liquor truck in the hood at the time, which obviously wasn't a lot of money. And then he starts, they put all this federal investment into more police and more policing and mass incarceration. Next thing I know, my dad's driving the delivery truck. He sees a sign that says up to $100,000 a year with overtimes. Sign up today. What you think a Black man finna do that's driving a liquor truck when he see a sign like that and he got 2 kids and you know what I'm saying? He trying to make it. Hell yeah, he took that damn opportunity. And that's how a lot of Black people became officers back then. But
well, I think, a lot of people who go to law enforcement don't look at it as a privilege to serve and help people. They look at the benefits and the pay. I've spoken with a police officer who I respect, and one of my first questions was, "What inspired you to do this work?" Because the answer I was hoping for was, helping and being a part of the community. Like the first thing that was stated was the benefits and the pay, and my heart sunk. Because I'm like, that's not what I mean. The way I've been brought up, the ideals of law enforcement, it's a privilege. You're serving, you're protecting, you're actually there to help people, not to, like, as you say, be a slave catcher or protect property all the time.
Exactly. And my dad basically told me the truth of it. Like, he was like, "Boo, let me tell you something. I see Black men come in and out of this place every single day at this jail." And he was like, "That don't need to be here." Yeah. He was like, they just simply needed another opportunity. And he also told me later on in life, he was like, "I thought I could maybe make a difference." And he's like, "Maybe I made some like small, things here and there, just trying to talk with him." He was like, "But there's no system." And he's like, it's a system. He was like, my individual good deeds and my individual trying to like encourage them, "Hey, don't let me see you back here. Don't let me see you in trouble again, and like how," but when there's nothing to actually put that person off the road of recidivism and off the road of ending up right back there, then it's just words. It's just a guy looking at a kid, because my brother's 10 years older than me. So he's looking at these Black youth that's the age of his son. And then it wasn't until one day my dad walked into the jail and it was his son. It was my brother.
Wow.
And so it was like, because our last name Nanton is not like a common name. And they booking my brother and they were like, "Nanton, do you know officer?" Like, it was like an immediate connection. And that's how my dad found out my brother was locked up. Like, so the cyclicalness, while my dad is being a Black police officer, my brother is getting swept up in 1990s and early 2000s mass incarceration. Like, the irony of that bullshit. So absolutely not. It's not about the police looking like us.
Got it. Let's finish up the quick debate recap, because I know you can't stay long, but I wanted to just get your thoughts at the end of it.
I hope it's okay. I went off on that.
Return to community-based policing, where the CTA platforms and the CTA stations and the trains have the presence of police officers.
My public safety plan lays out why it's important to actually hire and promote 200 more detectives, because our clearance rate is abysmal.
When it comes to solving crimes in the city, an NBC5 Investigate series found only 3 out of every 1,000 hit-and-run crashes were solved in 2021. It showed officers ignored seemingly obvious leads. The candidates explained how they would hold police accountable.
promoting people in the position of leadership who have the respect of the rank and file and who know what accountability is.
That's why we have to be smart about policing. Having police officers respond to mental health crises and marital disputes, that is unfair.
Both candidates went on the defense when asked about some controversial stances. Vallas has been hit during the campaign with attack ads because he has been backing by Republicans and conservatives, who once even calling himself a Republican back in a 2009 interview. He responded by saying he's only run for office as a Democrat. Now, Johnson has faced his own issues about it.
So here's another thing, too. We've said this many times. The only reason he's running as a Democrat is because he knows he'd never win as a Republican in
Absolutely
Chicago.
freaking not. That's all it is.
He's lying on that point. Okay, he's a liar. Liar on that. Liar on where he really lives. Liar on his record in other cities. Yeah.
Somebody needs to do a meme of him like with his pants on fire or something.
I'll get on that.
His comments from 2020 calling defunding the police a political goal. He says his plan is to invest in police by promoting 200 more officers. And remember, time is ticking here. The runoff election is set for April 4th.
Okay, so that's all they talked about was crime. They didn't talk about the other things that came up in the debate regarding reallocating resources. And let me also say, a million times we've said this too, I don't know who the F thought defund the police was a good branding, because clearly it was easy to throw back in people's faces, because people didn't mean defund the police and like create anarchy. It's like, let's reallocate those resources elsewhere. Unfortunately, that phrase has become a weapon against those that were trying to use it for good.
And honestly, that to me is just a reflection of the lack of like power that young people have built enough up of electorally, right? Because if young people actually voted in large numbers, and we were one of the largest voting blocks in this country, we could say whatever the fuck, excuse my language.
No, go ahead. We drop it all the time.
We could name it whatever the hell we wanted to name it, okay? And guess what? People would have to get the point. You know what I'm saying? So this is one of the reasons why I push for us to big up our numbers as well, so that we as young people, when we start movements and we get on the ground and we're fighting for things, because defund was an intentionally, what's the word I'm looking for? It was intentionally meant to be provocative.
Inflammatory? Yeah.
Not inflammatory, but provocative.
It's provocative, but now it's been turned against those.
Well, they would do that anyway.
Only because of the fact that the actual reason behind the, like, it's almost like that. It's almost like the whole thing with Paul Vallas trying to paint Baron just like the angry black man thing, right? Do you know that if I was talking to you both, maybe like in the 1960s or 70s, you would probably be telling me, you would probably be lecturing me a little bit on like, well, I mean, he probably shouldn't do that, but it is going to get weaponized against him. You know what I mean? Like, we would be having a different conversation because the narrative hadn't shifted enough yet, right? To have two, do y'all understand the unprecedented?
Yeah, no, I do. But let me ask you this, in all fairness and honesty, Erica. I didn't realize that the phrase defund the police came from an African-American platform. I thought defund the police just has to do with the fact that cops are out of order and they are abusing people's civil rights and killing people. I didn't look at it as a skin color thing. I looked at defund as like just being not the best choice, because anybody of any color that says defund the police is going to be labeled as, oh, what do you want, anarchy? I never really saw it as a
let's put it
to your
this
point
way.
about the 1960s. I was talking to how people should say things.
Yeah, and it's attached to this new political understanding people are growing into. Everybody ain't quite there yet, of understanding that police don't make us safer.
Oh yeah, we know
really divorcing that idea from our entire framework that we have been indoctrinated to believe our entire lives. So the idea even that there would be, you know, that anarchy is attached to less police, when the truth is less police actually, for my community at least, you know what I'm saying, means less getting busted upside the head. Yeah. Okay, so it's less getting pulled over for no freaking reason. You know what I'm saying? Less getting
anarchy.
harassed.
Yeah, anarchy is a bad faith interpretation of what the defund the police movement wanted. They wanted to abolish the institutional police system that currently exists in our country. And what that basically means is, to Erica's point, they want to get rid of the slave catchers and they want to do something new.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
they need to some of the people in the movement had said that we need to reimagine public safety. Okay, and that does not mean that we need to give more money to the current police system. It means that we find other ways to support community to reduce crime. And we've talked about this a lot on this show. The other places where the funds have to go, right? You have community centers, you have mental health clinics, you have obviously you're gonna properly fund the public school system, because that's part of the problem, Lou, is that the reason why public schools have bad records or sometimes failing is because they're continually sabotaged by people who want to privatize the school system. Go and look and see the disaster that Paul Vallas did to New Orleans.
Exactly.
Let's go to the comment that you're talking about, Ed. So
can I say one thing really quick before y'all? Sure. It's really important. So just also some heads up on history. The phrase defund the police is actually a shortened version of the original slogan that was started by Black Revolutionary Youth organizers, right? That were in impacted communities. The full phrase was actually defund the police and fund Black futures.
Which makes more sense.
That was actually
when you take the tail end off, then we know what it meant. We knew what defund the police didn't really mean completely defund them. But when you take off the last part of that phrase, then people are able to it doesn't have the logical sense that it would if that were continued. So this is what Ed was speaking to a moment ago from Constitutional Conservative. The CTU has destroyed the education system and failed the children. CTU students graduate with a 1.0 GPA and a 4th grade level. Tons of money has been spent on CPS, offer vouchers and school choice. No, you know why we don't offer vouchers and school choice, Constitutional Conservative? Because every kid in the city should get the same quality of high education. You shouldn't have a voucher so you can go to a better school. We need to put more money in the schools so all the kids get the best education that they can. Period. We have the money for it.
And it's insane to blame the teachers for any of this. A lot of them are spending money out of pocket to try and support
all of them are. They buy their here's a crazy story.
Can you put that comment up again so I can read the whole thing? And when
I was in a Staples 2 years ago buying some office supplies, and there was a teacher in front of me purchasing supplies for her classroom, and she was trying to use the coupons, and the Staples guy wouldn't let her use all the coupons, and she couldn't afford to buy the supplies for her classroom. Myself and another person in line said, "We'll pay for this. Don't worry." And she was crying, and she was too proud to take our help to make up the difference for this fucking coupon that the Staples guy wouldn't let her use, because she was they expect Chicago teachers to buy out. I have two cousins who are teachers, and they buy the supplies for their classrooms.
Exactly.
What world is that normal on, where you're working and you've got to buy the supplies that should be provided by the institution that you're working with at?
You want to know one of the best things that you could say, like Constitutional Conservative? Let me tell you something. I actually grew up in the hood, and I went to an underfunded school where I'm from, in Miami, Florida. But midway through life, I moved to a very wealthy white neighborhood, and my mother got us an apartment right on the border of the zip code so that I could still go to school with the rich kids, public school, right? She worked 3 jobs. Yeah, she worked 3 jobs to afford that apartment just so I could have the right zip code, And so I went to school with them. But then a little bit through my tenure, I had to move back again, because that's what happens with poor folk. My mom couldn't maintain it, sent me back to Florida with my grandma, and I had to go back to the school in the hood. And then once my mom got herself together, she brought me back to the other neighborhood with the rich kids. So that meant my whole life I spent going back and forth between a hood underfunded school and a wealthy rich white school. A hood back to the hood, back and forth, as I grew and developed and start to be able to see the world. So let me tell you something, Constitutional Conservative. Public schools seem to work perfectly fine in wealthy neighborhoods.
That's right. That's why my parents moved to Wilmette when we were kids, so we can get the better education up there.
I went to a top-notch public school when I was in the right zip code. And there wasn't a thing wrong with it. We had the top-notch services, top-notch education, college graduation rates, after school sports and activities, culinary classes, music, all of that, right? To a school that we barely had computers, to a school where we barely had the books that we needed. We didn't have an actual real science labs or any of that. But then when I went back to the wealthy school for the next grade, because I had to switch between, I was in the middle of a school year, I had to switch. Guess what my science class was in ninth grade? Forensics. This was back when the show CSI first came out. The show CSI wasn't even like a big thing yet. And we were doing a forensics class in high school where they were teaching us how to put the pipettes into the DNA gel, just like they do on CSI. And we had all the materials.
Bet you didn't find that in the other neighborhood, the other school in the other neighborhood. And that's why, yeah, you didn't need a voucher and a choice. It just mattered what zip code you were in and the taxes that were being paid there. That's why across the board, every zip code should have schools that are the same. The same level of education. Shouldn't matter that you're living up on the north side like I grew up in, or the south side. Give the same level of education to everybody. That's what the taxpayer dollars should go towards. And you know what? If you do that, you're potentially maybe going to have less crime because you're going to have less desperate people from any neighborhood.
Exactly. Because you'll be getting a quality education that makes you feel like you have a future, right? That's something to live for and not just something to die over. You know, and it really is like, well, I work with youth mostly here, and some of them are justice involved. You know, they have pulled the triggers out here, right? But one thing that I've actually learned is that they are willing to die over a block or a small beef or like something small. Why? Because they ain't never seen downtown, some of them. Can you believe that? Some of them, I remember when I first came to Chicago, I asked the girl was doing my hair. It was my first time in the neighborhood, like hood, but I need to get my hair braided, so I had to go to the hood. And she was like braiding my hair, and I was like, oh, I'm excited to be. I'm in college, you know, I'm a college student. I'm excited. I was like, I can't wait to go to the Lincoln Park Zoo. I heard it's the largest free zoo in the country. And she said, what zoo? I said, I just got to Chicago, okay, like. And you've been here how long? Shit, my whole life. I ain't never heard no free zoo. I was like, what? I was like so preppy and excited to see it, right? And bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And like, you know, I've lived in Chicago now for a decade at least, almost. And that may not sound like a long time, but that's a big chunk of my life. I'm not that old. So it kind of like I grew up in a way here, and it's like to see now what I know to be so a natural thing. When I first came here, I was shocked. I was like, why don't y'all know your own? Like, so how, like, these kids haven't even seen their own downtown. These kids don't even know a free zoo exists. Like, you know how isolating that is?
Well, we're the most segregated city in the country, and there's a reason that the kids don't know about it, because they're kept in their own neighborhoods without the opportunities to know about this stuff, let alone travel downtown and experience these things.
It's a shame. And so now they're willing to die over the pettiest things. And I always said, because I traveled to Europe recently, and I was like, let me tell you something. If our youth got opportunities to travel, if our youth got opportunities to see more of the world, I was like, ain't nobody trying to die over no block if you done seen Paris. Ain't nobody trying to die over no block if you done been to, you know, some other part of the world before, you know, if you done been to Ghana, if you done been, like, if you've just learned that there's a whole big world out there of possibilities and things, you start to rethink what you're willing to die over, you know, whereas when you don't think there's anything else outside, there is nothing else but this block, but this corner, but this small square radius, then life becomes myopic. It becomes this small myopic experience.
And it's about survival then. It's just about survival.
It's just about survival in the moment. It's not about dreaming about anything. And so that's what people need to understand about where this crime is stemming from, why these youth are willing to do such wild, reckless levels of activities. Is because they're living in a world that's so much smaller, right, than the experience. And think about this. It's actually an adventure to go downtown for many of them. But for many of them, the first time they've ever gotten asked to go was to go hit a lick, as we call it, do a robbery, right? And so think about that. The first time you finally get the opportunity or offer or the transportation, right? Through a jacked car or whatever the case is, to finally see downtown. It's like exciting for a young person to finally see downtown, but it's to go hit a lick, right? When it should have been a field trip. Why do all of these museums in Chicago not have a whole program centered around taking CPS students to the Field Museum as a part of the curriculum that they all get to do, and going to the aquarium as a part of the curriculum?
We
to
had
Museum
field
of
trips.
Art.
We had field trips from the north side all the time.
It's not like that over here.
Well, that's what people on the north side need to hear, and in the privileged neighborhoods. This is this is because this comes down to the expression, those that haven't walked in other people's shoes or don't even know like what those shoes fit like, don't have any sense of like what people are facing. People don't, because people live in their bubbles in specific neighborhoods. Not unintentionally, they think that everything works the same way everywhere else. Unless you visited other neighborhoods or visited other parts of town to understand, no, the equation is not the same there. That's why people needed their eyes open to this stuff.
Exactly. And so Brandon's plan to invest like never before is exactly what we need. Not locking our kids up more.
Yeah. Remember this? One of Lori's greatest moments? Criminalizing folks for going young people. Yeah. With the curfews, because she thought that the curfews were going to stop people shooting each other downtown at Millennium Park. What are you doing?
That was like, I haven't seen that like that since the movie Footloose. How you gonna keep kids from dancing?
Yeah.
And having fun? This ain't Footloose. Like the world.
They're gonna try.
They're gonna try it anyway. And guess what? Those young people organize the hell out of themselves. Somebody better start asking them young people how they organize so well instead of arresting them. Because let me tell you something, them youth was able to mobilize and organize thousands of people at the snap of a finger, okay? And there are some of us that are struggling right now to get that kind of organization of young people. So we better start tapping into that power instead of arresting it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get more youth activity, especially the ones of voting age, because early voting, they didn't really show up, and election day, they really didn't show up. And so if Jamal thinks he has the finger on the pulse there, where were the kids, man? Where were the 18 to 24-year-olds that should have shown up in droves to vote for you?
Exactly. And you can't keep blaming how fucked up the Democratic, of course, the Democratic Party is fucked up, is not investing in youth voting. We know this, right? But like I said, there's a difference between being an activist and being an organizer. An activist gets on the mic and says the Democratic Party is effed up and doesn't help with youth turnout and does bad things that, and expounds upon like to the people, like this is what's going on, like with a megaphone, right? That's what an activist does, which is needed, right? You gotta sound the alarm, right? But organizing is another level of that, which is okay. Like now, what we gonna do about it? Now what we gonna do about it? Okay. And so that's the difference. And I feel like if Jamal was willing to really take that, because organizing isn't as glorified, it's not as spotlighty, right? Because that's the background work that you don't get to be on the camera all the time. You don't get to be, this is nice that I get to be on this podcast right now, but like most of the work I do is not televised. You know what I'm saying? It's not recorded.
Well, it will be ongoing, Erica, for as often as you want to come back.
But it's the work that's needed. Now, do I have my activist moments? Yes. So I'm not demeaning activists, because then somebody gonna pull up all the clips of me at a press conference and me with a mic and a bullhorn. Of course I do that part, but that's not the only dang part. Like there's a whole lot of freaking work to do. We know what the problem is. Now let's do it. Let's do it. Because if we don't, it's not gonna change, yo. And we need to not be in love with always a cameraman. That's not when the real work happens. The real work does not happen on camera. Just doesn't.
Yeah. No. And I'm glad that you made that. You were able to discriminate the difference, because it makes total sense when you break it down that way. The difference between activism and organizing. Often mix the two up, and it's like, no, now I get it. Yeah, activism is airing the grievances. Organizing is like doing shit to solve the grievances. Exactly. And it takes a lot longer, and it's
not as glamorous all the time. It's not as glamorous all the time.
Yeah, and this is great point. Is that like you said, we got to get polling stations back at the schools.
Yes.
This
and
is
some of them wasn't there in the first place. Not even back at the schools. Some of them didn't have some of the city colleges never had polling places in the first place. It's just never been a thing, you know, and that blew my mind. How the heck don't city colleges have polling places during a city election? Y'all got to be kidding me. So we're doing, like I said, because I gotta run soon, but I just want to remind y'all, we're doing this push for getting the polling places in the city colleges. So anybody's watching the show, even though we are pushing the seniors to phone bank, please don't feel like you can't phone bank. Call the Board of Elections up, especially during working business hours, and say you are demanding, you want polling places in every city college, right? Because it is not right that young people don't have the same kind of access the way that you put polling places in senior homes, you know, or something to that effect. Like it should be similar, right? So if you're watching this and you want to phone bank with the seniors, please do. But we're really focusing on seniors with that because we want to show a coalition of voices. We want to show that this is a multi-generational demand, right? That it's not just a bunch of young people whining for polling places, but there's actual elders who are committed voters saying it ain't right that I got a polling place right downstairs at my senior living facility, but these young people don't have one on campus and they have to try to vote between classes, you know? So make it happen. And so this is an important push. This is an important fight. If we can get those polling places, baby, it's on. Because what's going to happen is you talking about a ground game on them campuses. Y'all, the polling place is right there. Get your butt to the polls. We're going to make a dance and everything. Like, you know, it's like it helps us to really point them like and use some fun, use some hype, use some things that really get youth interested. Start talking about the candidates that are running if they feel too low information. Address their concerns. Like, be on the ground during early voting. Polling places right there. Get your butt in that booth. I know that's right. Fist bump. That's what we're going to be doing all day.
You heard it from Erica Nanton. Anything else you want to leave our viewers with before we head out? I can't wait till you come back and share other stuff that you want to share, present to the audience.
Of course. I mean, that's about it. And I guess I would just leave with just saying that I really appreciate the movement. I want to big up the movement real quick because the things that I've shared tonight, right? Some have come from my experiential experiences, of course, that I've been able to digest. But you know what taught me to digest these experiences is being in a movement. It's being in a room. It's being in rooms with people that are so different than me. Some that are very much similar to me. Being all across this country, even across this globe. I've been international work. I've been the United Nations. I've been it's just the fact that I've gotten to do this in so many environments that are different than me, you know, but while living in my own experience. So it allowed me to get a lot of clarity. So I don't even want to take credit for the things that I've shared, because had it not been for me meeting union, I got to speak at the Bermuda Union of Teachers Union event in Bermuda, in the island of Bermuda, a teachers union, right? If it hadn't been me meeting those Caribbean teachers union folks and the things I learned there, I wouldn't know a lot about indigenous organizing work that helps me understand the teachers union here, right? So it's like, we need to have a movement, not just for the sake of a movement, not just for the sake of saying that we are part of a movement or building a movement, but because we really actually want to freaking win. We actually want freedom, y'all. We actually want liberation. We don't want more airtime. We don't want more Facebook followers or Instagram retweets or nothing like that. I mean, those things are good if they're spreading the message, but we actually want to be free. So that's what we need to do. I really appreciate y'all for having me on. I would love to come back again. And like I said, I'm going to keep an eye out for y'all because y'all need to start tapping into some of this talent out here that really bring some real great stuff to y'all show.
You got my DM. So just when you got something you want to share or someone you want to us to bring on the show, or direct them to me or anybody in the audience tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
I see a lot of interesting new faces in the chat. I see someone I haven't seen before, and I hope that I'm pronouncing their name correctly. Agla Malinowskate.
Egle Malinaskate.
Malinaskate.
Yeah, and then they go by they them.
Okay.
But yeah, Egle is one of my friends, and I'm
Oh,
so
okay.
happy
Well,
that
they
you came
remark.
on to watch me, friend. You're so
They
awesome.
remark. Vallas is
And,
also liking posts with his private Facebook page calling Chicago a shithole. That's actually going to be our next story. But to Agla or anybody else who's joined the chat tonight, you can always reach out to me, Jerry at chicagocorner.tv. If you want to come on Chicago Corner and have the stage as Erica has tonight and share what you're involved in, what you're working on. If it doesn't have to be politics, can be anything. We're going to have an author on, I think next week, somebody that I met is going to talk about their book. Whatever you want to come on the corner and talk about, that's what we're here for.
And I just want to big up Agley real quick. Agley is working together with me at the UIC campus, and they have a whole team building over there because we have teams going to all the colleges, and Agley kind of helping with that team and spearheading over there, and they are doing amazing. The team is growing, and they already have a polling place. So they're already like some steps ahead than our city colleges, but and Agley does amazing work with undocumented folks, and have them on the show, please. Have them on that show.
We just need to set it up, and you have got to come back because you've got a huge fan following already in your first show here. So good show. Bring her back soon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Y'all are awesome.
And speaking, and we were talking about museums a little while ago with field trips and stuff, and I just wanted everybody to know there are free museum days in the city of Chicago where, and I know a lot of schools take advantage of this, is a certain days of the week it is free to get into museums. But also, if you are a resident of the city of Chicago, you can get discounted museum tickets. So like if you're going, for example, to the Museum of Science and Industry and you want to go to one of those exhibit shows, one of those special shows they have, you can get discounted rates on a lot of those things by just being a resident in the city of Chicago, which means all you really need to do is show your ID with your address showing that you live here.
That's good to know. Those museums should be free anyway, but
they should be.
You just
they,
took words out of my mouth, Jerry. But so like I know I keep saying
they got to fight for funds too.
Yeah, so, but also like just real. I don't know why I just wanted to share this real quick. But with the museum thing. So like I said, I'm originally from Florida. One thing that I will say about Florida that's different than Chicago youth experience is that in Florida we all have a similar experience when it comes to Florida's a travel destination. So we have like these trips that happen at each grade level. So like the 4th grade trip. Almost no matter what school you go to Silver Springs Glass Bottom Boat. The 3rd grade trip, everybody goes to because down in Miami, like the Everglades, the 5th grade trip is the Everglades, and everybody in the 5th grade remembers the Everglades trip because it's what all 5th graders do. So it's kind of like that. Chicago and CPS need to work together with these museums to where children have a consistent experience across grade levels to where no matter if you went to school on the north side, west side, south side, you know that in the 3rd grade, it is in the curriculum, you'll all go to the field museum. So everybody remembers the 3rd grade trip. It's a commonality that people across the city, when you grow up, you could be like, remember the 3rd grade trip? When we all go to the field museum and you see a bunch of other 3rd grade classes and y'all have to, you can only fit so many kids. So different schools have to go in groups, in sets. But it's a great way for them to like remember what it was like to be because like one of the things I used to work with the museums and the field museums with the environmental justice work I was doing. And they said, during the week, this place is pretty much empty, right? I was like, you mean to tell me y'all got empty museums during the week? With school-age children in school during the week.
Exactly, right?
And you're not putting the school-age children in the museums
because the museums is part of what they're learning.
That's a crime.
Science, history,
natural history. Like it just blew my mind. So so that's the thing. I get the free museum days or whatever, but as far as for the kids, there's no reason why the weekdays should not be full of children. There is no reason the museum shouldn't be teeming. I mean, God bless the museum staff.
Well, Kathy Powers shares one can get free passes for museums from the libraries. I hate to like make extra work for the teachers, but if the teachers can go to the libraries and raid these free passes for their classes, then they just have to get the authorization from the principal to get the kids to the museum.
But you know what? They shouldn't. That's the thing. It should
It
not
shouldn't
be
be
like
that hard.
No, I know
It should be
that hard.
I agree. I know it shouldn't be that hard, but I'm just remarking if there's look, free passes at the libraries, that's like taking it to the extreme. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't have to be that hard. It should just be, it's done.
It's museums. How do museums and school not go together? Museums and school go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here. And they're empty. You got empty museums during the week. Okay. And you got a bunch of kids.
Yep.
Like, just make it a consistent thing. And you take them group by group. Like, this set of schools gets to go on this day. This next set, third grade classes go on that day. And you just keep a rotation during the week.
Reallocate some resources from the police budget to like fund kids going to the museums. And it would barely be a dent. It would barely be
a dent. And the kids would actually build memories that are cool and educational. And like they get to see downtown and they get to see more of the world and learn that the world is bigger than their block and dream, you know?
I'm sorry, we can't do any of that. It would make too much sense.
Like, this ain't hard, yo. But honestly, that's one of the big programs that I will be talking to Brandon Johnson about. Like, as far as like my lobbying, that's something I'm definitely going to be lobbying him hard on, is that connection between CPS and the museums during the weekdays.
Well, he's also a former teacher and educator. So how could he not understand that?
Yeah. And just like,
that's
Brandon,
like a no-brainer.
what we got to do to make this happen, bruh. Okay.
Right.
And just like, yeah, so that's going to be my little lobby up here. I'm going to have some more for him now. You know, but that's gonna be one of my real big ones to see, like, kind of like a test run too. Like, is he gonna listen? Is he gonna really see this? Do I need
have a feeling he's
people? You know, like, let me get some more people too with me, the environmental community, with the youth advocates, and let's present it to him together and like see what we can do.
I'd be shocked if he wasn't receptive to that.
I would be too. Honestly, I would be too, because it just makes too much sense. But yeah, so if y'all finally hear about that, just know that we got a group together that wasn't playing, and we got it done. Okay.
Erica, where can people find you on social media? What platform do you usually use to get your message out and just keep in touch with people?
So I use Facebook a lot. And apparently that makes me old school in my generation, but I do use Facebook a lot. It's just Erica Nanton. And you'll see a photo of someone that looks like me, and you can just hit the follow button and you'll see all my public posts. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I am at Erica, ERICA, 4 spelled out, FOUR, real, REAL.
Oh, we actually have your at tags in our show description so people can find you. Actually, okay. I had Erica for real as your Twitter handle, but that's also your Instagram, so people can. Okay, great. That's an easy way for people to find it. Down in the show description in the notes, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate y'all on the show.
We appreciate you.
I'm about to knock out my baby done knocked out. Okay, my child is knocked out.
We're gonna have you back soon. So thank you so much, Erica. I'm glad you could join us tonight.
Thank you so much, y'all. Have a good night, audience. Peace out.
Take care. Good night.
Bye.
Wow. I want to wrap up.
We'll definitely have Erica back.
We got through
whenever she wants.
Yeah, no. Whenever she wants, I'm going to be in touch with her. Don't you worry about that. She's going to be back as soon as she has the time to, and I'm going to stay on her to make sure that we can make that time. So a lot of activity in the chat tonight. I'm so glad so many of Erica's friends and colleagues have been able to join us tonight. I hope that you also will subscribe to Chicago Corner, like our show, share it on your social media so more people can find us. They can also see Erica in the future, as well as anybody that she puts in our direction that we will gladly have on the show, along with any of the newcomers in the live chat that have anything to share. You can reach me at Nightstar Pro on Twitter, or you can email me, jerry@chicagocorner.tv, if you have any stories or any news that you want us to share to come on the show. So Agla had mentioned earlier the Paul Vallas story, which is actually in our show notes. as a matter of interest this evening, and I'm going to share it.
That one.
Yeah,
Okay.
the guy who wants to run for the guy who wants to run Chicago, who pays taxes in Palos Heights and just rented a bachelor pad down in Bridgeport, his Facebook page liked comments calling Chicago a hellhole and Chicago. Shades of Darren Bailey. Anyone who ran for governor, who used to call Chicago the same things before he moved into the Hancock during his failed gubernatorial bid against Pritzker. Former schools CEO Paul Vallas is headed to the April 4th runoff election after coming in first in a crowded mayoral field February 28th. Now, this comes to us from Block Club Chicago, Kelly Bauer. Interesting insight into Palos Paul's loyalty to our city or love for our city. Mayoral candidate Paul Vallas' Facebook page liked comments disparaging Chicago. The Facebook page liked comments disparaging public education and encouraging Chicago public schools to be defunded. Though Vallas was once the district's CEO, as well as one that called Chicago a hellhole and criticized Democrats and local leaders. But remember, everybody, Paul has been a Democrat his whole life when it was convenient for him to run for elections in cities that are largely Democratic-based. The social media controversy was first reported late Thursday by the Tribune's Greg Pratt, Alice Yin, and Rick Pearson. Vallas's account still liked the comments as of Friday morning. That's either Paul Vallas liking the comments and not knowing how to go through his timeline to unlike them, or I don't believe he's got a staff managing his page. I think it's him.
Well, and if it isn't him, he's probably got such a small staff of loyal supporters that, if they're like-minded, he's not gonna. Oh, why did you click that like button? Although he will publicly throw them under the bus, of course,
or say that his accounts were hacked, like he did on Twitter.
Yeah,
he's got he had the verification, the top level verification.
Yeah, but you gotta check mark that. That's not likely.
No. A Vallas campaign spokesperson could not immediately be reached for comment, though the campaign told the Tribune Vallas does not manage his campaign's social media accounts, and the likes should not have been made. He had nothing to do with these actions, but the campaign takes responsibility and has restricted access to the account, the campaign told the Tribune. These were offensive statements and should not have been liked by anyone. But to Ed's point a moment ago, obviously he has like-minded people on his staff. That's why they were liked. So this mea culpa now in the backpedaling is just damage control. Vallas's page liked a comment from July 3rd, about a month after he announced his campaign, in which a person wrote, "Disgusting. I hope you win, Paul. Chicago has become a total hellhole." Vallas's page also replied to that comment, writing, "I need your help. I need your help. I need your help." And on June 6th, just a few days, he needs help, all right. And on June 6th, just a few days after Vallas's campaign announcement, his page liked a comment in which someone wrote, "Please stop the madness in this once great city, Chicago." I know someone else who uses the phrase Chicago on social media. In fact, he's a regular contributor to our live chat, but I don't think he's tuned in anymore. The page also liked, and if you think it's Chicago, why do you live here then? The page also liked controversial comments about education, including one from August 15th that said, "Shame on the CTU. They don't care about the kids. Let's get rid of all teachers and start from scratch." In that same post, Vallas's page also liked a comment in which a person wrote that, quote, "A parochial education is far superior to a public education." What did we just talk about with Erica?
Yeah, which is bullshit.
Of course. Of course it is. And in December of 2021, the page liked a comment from a person who wrote, "Defund CPS." It's not the first time Vallas' social media presence has created controversy. The Tribune reported in February that his Twitter account had liked racist and offensive posts. Vallas is headed to the April 4th runoff election after coming in first in a crowded mayoral field February 28th. He picked up about 33% of the vote, while the next closest candidate, Brandon Johnson, had about 22% of the vote, according to unofficial results. Although, as we shared earlier, it looks like Johnson has got 41% in polling. Was it 41%? Let me reopen that.
I think that poll said 40. Like had Johnson at 45 and Vallas at 40.
I think that's what it was. Let me just confirm, so we have our facts straight, because we are.
While you're confirming, I just want to point out that if you have the perspective that education is not important, but busting perps is more important than an educated public, do you think maybe you need to reevaluate your priorities?
Yeah. Yep. All right. So actually, I stand corrected. Brandon Johnson right now is at 45%, with 40% to Paul Vallas, 1% other, 14% undecided. This is a new Chicago mayoral runoff poll, and it was conducted by, I think Kathy asked earlier, Lake Research Partners.
Yeah, and that was, I think they polled 800 people.
Yeah.
And you guys know how I feel about polls that are under 2,000, but
that's true too.
I take everything with a grain of salt if it's a small polling sample.
I hear you eat everything with a grain of salt too.
I do. Well, I actually don't. See these things?
Yeah.
Not eating them with a grain of salt.
Ah, Swedish fish.
Yes.
All right. Vallas has faced criticism from some for being backed by the city's largest police union, having ties to Republicans, and being too conservative for Chicago, traditionally a more liberal Democratic stronghold. He said he's a, quote, lifelong Democrat and the tough-on-crime candidate, vowing to bring back droves of retired police officers to deal with Chicago's violence. Dog whistle. Johnson has more progressive policies and has been backed by the CTU. He picked up an endorsement from progressive Senator Elizabeth Warren, although I don't know that's, I mean, to me, that's...
Hey, you know, Jerry, in this election, it's Chicago.
I know.
It's a heavy blue establishment leaning city.
Yeah.
And so if you get an endorsement like that and you're running for mayor of the city, it's probably generally a good thing.
I understand. I just think that, you know, Elizabeth Warren, unfortunately,
I mean, look, we have our criticisms of basically all blue establishment Democrats and in my opinion, most or if not all members of Congress.
Well, just imagine if Brandon Johnson had been getting the endorsements of some of the other mayoral candidates who don't want to give endorsements, he wouldn't have to rely on out of towners like Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's got her own set of baggage. And that's, I think, what is at the heart of what opened the show. The importance of endorsements from our local candidates who didn't win, but have an opportunity here to get the more progressive candidate past the finish line so everybody eats. And it's not just Paul carving up the Chicago pizza pie to give to his wealthy out-of-town shadow donors. So, yeah, all right. So Senator Elizabeth Warren, a nationally known former presidential candidate, on Friday morning. The two will face off during the April 4th election, which will decide Chicago's next mayor. Coming up quick. Ooh, get him off. He's got those beady bug eyes. All right. So speaking of endorsements, we had some other endorsements drop this week. And I'm bringing up that article now. And now this is a particular, you know, to me, this endorsement should be a kiss of death also. But and we predicted this, didn't we? We knew this. We knew this was going to happen. They need to do a road movie next.
Oh, that endorsement.
Yeah. Willie Wilson endorses Paul Vallas in the mayor's race.
Yeah, they're best friends.
Of course they are.
I mean, we talked about them probably doing a buddy movie.
Yeah, that's what they should be doing. That's what they should be doing. Now, they're both Republicans pretending they're Democrats. Now, to Willie Wilson's credit, and I've said this before, I have a tremendous amount of admiration for what he's been able to, how he's been able to build his wealth. He's obviously a very hard worker. He's obviously he's a good businessman to be the richest of all the candidates. But, you know,
They're
He's
both
giving-
pro
he's gi-
business. They're
he's-
both pro
they're both
business.
Although I will give Wilson, Wilson's giving back to the community, but we've also kind of thought that the only times Wilson's really giving back to the community is when, it's election time and he wants to make himself relevant and get people to vote for him. I do believe that he does do giveaways other times. So maybe it's not all about the election, but anyway, there's that endorsement. And we also mentioned aforementioned Elizabeth Warren endorsement for Brandon Johnson in the previous article. Now, interesting story that Ed found that was originally posted on a website called The Leader. So what was the story with this, Ed? You saw it and then it disappeared, but then you were able to find it through the web archive.
Yes, I'm looking. I'm always scoping for news, right?
Yep.
And this was one of the links that showed up in a search engine, and I clicked on the link, and then it said not found. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Why would this article be removed so quickly? It was posted March 7th. Today's March 10th, and the article's gone.
So I copied the link and pasted it into the Wayback Machine to see if maybe they had a copy of it, and they did. And it's by an author named Caroline Bueller, and she has other articles on this website. So I clicked on, how you can click on the author's name and see what other articles they've written.
Sure.
So I'm like looking at the dates of those articles, and I'm like, okay, well, this one's like a week before, and this one's like a week after. They must have deleted this for some reason. So I'm like,
hinky. What does that mean, Vince? Hinky. Oh, strange. Weird. Why don't you say strange?
Very hinky.
So it'd be interesting. I mean, unless it's it's just an article that they didn't want to run, or maybe it has information that they couldn't verify. I don't know.
Well, the latter is what I'm wondering if it was the reason. But this article had 111 views before it was removed. That you had to go find it in the Wayback Machine, and I want to read from it. And let's go through it because I think we've both kind of had our ear to the ground on some of the shadiness regarding Vallas's donors and his finances. So I think it's fair to share this. Again, we're not journalists, we're commentators, and we're sharing an article that was vetted by somebody else since removed. But I'm curious to know what they wrote about and what could potentially be so inflammatory that the article would be removed, unless maybe there was false information in it. Paul Vallas's run for mayor for Chicago has been eventful, to say the least. His campaign has been riddled with controversy concerning his political leanings and past statements. However, this may all just be a front to cover up a bigger story. His monthly financial statements show he was $500,000 in debt before the campaign. If one were to look even deeper, one would see that Vallas has profited a little over $1 million in campaign funds that he hasn't used. All of his is legal, but it's a bad look for him. It seems as though his intentions on running for mayor need to be analyzed further. Well, this seems right now more of an opinion piece than an article, but let's continue. And if it's an editorial, that's fine too, as long as it's using facts to present its premise. Of course, no one other than Vallas could know his true intentions, though at the same time, this information paints a darker picture of the already confusing painting that is Paul Vallas. Vallas's 2019 campaign. When Paul Vallas ran for mayor in 2019, he came, this is why I said he was a joke. He came dead last in the polling and in the actual election. Even though he came last, he ended up getting sued by 2 Chicagoans for breaching the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. This was because he and one of the campaign services he used, called Link to Tech, had sent out unsolicited text messages to people in the Chicagoland area who had never opted into receiving campaign texts from Vallas. I got a phone. So Ed and I and Kira were doing a Chicago Corner strategy meeting last night, and I had a incoming phone call, and I had to take it because I was expecting it was from a client. I didn't recognize the number, but it was someone asking me if I was going to vote for Paul Vallas. And Kira and Ed were watching and witnessing this. And you tell the rest of the story, Ed, because it was pretty funny.
Well, Jerry tried to get off the phone pretty quick, but I was like, man, you should have kept him on. We were going to say, no. And this is all the reasons why you should not be voting for Paul Vallas either.
But I was in a meeting with you and Kira. Yeah. And once I realized it was a campaign call from the Vallas campaign, they asked me, are you going to be voting for Paul Vallas? I'm like, no, hung up immediately to get back to Ed and Kira. But I don't know how I'm on a Paul Vallas call list unless I'm not on any list that gave And I haven't been on a list that gave anybody any campaigns the right to call me or text me, although maybe when I do sign up for a political page, don't they like mine that data and give it to like the party affiliation with?
You do have that NGP van company that a lot of political candidates pay money to get data and information on voters. But it doesn't have to be some like a candidate you may or may not have donated to. They may have just purchased a list from somewhere.
All right, so we have a quick comment in the chat. Elizabeth Marino, this show is so much better with Erica. I'll start tuning in more often if she's a regular. Absolutely. And even better if you do a serious segment which features you all talking politics without goofy videos. I can't promise that, Elizabeth. You know, the irreverence is part of the show. And, you know, if you can't laugh at something, I mean, maybe we're not, although we'd love to keep you here, we can't change who we are to please people. This is who we are. Humor, irreverence, and everything else. We hope that you would tune in because you do appreciate the conversation, but we can't keep it serious all the time. Otherwise, we'd blow our brains out. Anyway, but thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. And yeah, I just want to, I saw that comment. I didn't want it to drift up too far before I saw it and acknowledged it, and thanked Elizabeth for joining us. And yeah, Erica's got an open invitation here whenever she's available. You know, that said, we work for free. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget, and she knows that. So that's why I said anytime she wants to come on, when it's good for her to share whatever she wants to share, it's always an open invitation, and we will make the time along with anybody else who wants to come on the show. Elizabeth, if you have anything that you want to share, reach out to us, jerry@chicagocorner.tv. All right, back to the Vallas article. And by the way, Elizabeth, if this is the first time you're watching the show, we are kind of serious here. I mean, like, we're not journalists. We're commentators. And this is a conversation as if we're all having a drink on the corner, under the street lamp, talking politics, talking news in Chicago. That's the character of what the channel is. So we hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy just being ourselves, as honest as we can be.
Yeah, but you'll find that I'm trying to find the humor in a lot of this stuff, because sometimes, I mean, if we don't, then I mean the whole show's going to get super depressing because of all the things that we haven't been able to fix in the city yet. You know, we talk about all of that. You know, we talk about all of the ways we could change it, the things that we think could be done better. And when we see something ripe for parody, we're going to parody.
Because
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Oh! There you go. I let Ed finish it. All right, back to the serious article. Okay. So why was he sued by two Chicagoans? For breaching the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. This was because he and one of the campaign services he used, called Link to Tech, had sent out unsolicited text messages to people in the Chicagoland area who had never opted into receiving campaign texts from Vallas. This led to the suit Cluey versus Paul Vallas for All Chicago. In court documents that can be found online, Link to Tech filed to have the claims dismissed, to which the motion was denied by Judge Paycold of the Illinois District Court. To understand why Vallas's campaign expenditures are strange, one first has to know about campaign disclosures. Each candidate has to publicly disclose exactly how much money they are getting and who is giving them what. When all of this information is compiled quarterly, it is called a D2 statement. A D2 statement is a tax document that people campaigning need to fill out each quarter to publicly state who loaned or donated money, what they are spending their money on, and who they owe money to. What makes Vallas's D2 statements interesting is that in his last two D2 statement of the 2019 election, he reported having been in debt to Link to Tech for $535,357. Coming in dead last in that year's mayoral election, his D2 statement put his campaign funds into negative balance. Coupled with the, so she states, the author states, you can find this information online. Coupled with the $19,000 that he owed his brother and then treasurer Dean Vallas, we see that his financial mess keeps piling higher and higher. Vallas's 2023 campaign. Jumping back to the current mayoral election, Vallas is running as a Democrat, a moderate one at that. He wants the city to know that he will be tough on crime, create good public schools, and end a string of bad politics and corruption within the city. The man who got votes from almost exclusively the north side of the city says the city needs more police, proven by his supporters from the Fraternal Order of Police. Vallas has a slew of interesting supporters and donors. In the first quarter of his campaign, he was given $500,000 from Michael Kaiser. He is the prominent CEO of Bandon Dunes Golf Course Resort and a prominent GOP donor. Now, while one Republican donor may not be enough to say that somebody's campaign is funded by Republicans, let's go further. His second biggest campaign donor is James N. Perry Jr., who donated $450,000. He's from the private equity firm Madison Dearborn Partners and actually attended an event with Vallas and Republican Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos at a reception for the Catholic Schools of Chicago in 2021. Betsy DeVos. Disgraced Betsy DeVos, I would say. Huge right-wing extremist Republican who got her position as Secretary of Education because her family donated a lot of money to get her that post, if I recall correctly.
And someone may also recall correctly that Betsy DeVos owns 10 yachts, and one of them got away. 9 yachts left to go.
From a hurricane? What did the one that get away? What was the reason for that?
I think it was released or got loose from its tie moorings, and I believe it sank.
Wah, her yacht sank, wah.
So hashtag 9 yachts left to go.
His second biggest campaign, one cannot say for certain which party Vallas truly lies with, but people can follow the money. With outwardly right-leaning candidates such as Willie Wilson in the primary, why give to Vallas? What good would it do a GOP donor to give money to Vallas? What would it give to them? That itself is the ultimate question. Now, this came up in the debate the other night, and I actually texted Ed while we were watching. Marianne Ahole asked Brandon Johnson what was going to prevent him from being controlled by the teachers union and all the financial influences there and the bad union bosses. And, he said because he's got his eye on the city and there are other, I forgot how he answered the question. But what struck me about them asking him that question, they then asked Paul Vallas, why is it that, how can he promise that he's not only going to be representing the interests of the Fraternal Order of Police? Isn't their support buying him? And that's the only group that Ahern asked Paul Vallas about. I'm like, the Fraternal Order of Police is like a wart on the ass of the problem. The bigger problem, the bigger rash is all of these private donors. She should have asked Paul Vallas, how are you going to make sure that you are not just serving the interests of all of your big money donors? She made it about unions. She made it about unions when it's not about unions, it's about business as well. And she very, very clearly sidestepped that big elephant in the room, the big Republican elephant, since most of his donors are Republicans. So this author to say, what good would it do a GOP donor to give money to Vallas? What would it give to them? That itself is the ultimate question, is the question that Ahern did not ask him while she was insinuating that the Chicago Teachers Union would have Johnson on a leash, just doing their bidding.
Yeah, which, by the way, is ridiculous because Johnson was not even a teacher for more than 4 years. I've been told. And so even while he's an ally of the teachers union and while they have supported him greatly, he's not really that beholden to every single thing to the small minority of militant members of the Chicago Teachers Union. And I say militant with a grain of salt too, because
it's an anti-union dog whistle is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And and before we continue, thank you very much to Mad Matt.
There you go. Thank you, Mad Matt. Do we have any comments over on Rockfin?
Do we? Let me look.
I'll let you look.
Nobody on Rockfin tonight.
All right.
So yes, if anybody was wondering and you're watching us on YouTube or one of the other platforms, we also are streaming live on rokfin.com. So if you want to watch us on there, that would be cool. You can watch all of our streams for free at the moment. But if you want to become a member of Rockfin, you can do a monthly subscription, and then you have access to every person who is streaming on Rockfin, including their premium content.
Yep. So go for it. And you can always also support us on Patreon. So back to the article. Questions with no answers. Interestingly, so the question was, what good would it do GOP donors to give Paul Vallas donations? Interestingly as well, on March 2nd, he donated. So here, we reported on this last week. We shared that story. Mm-hmm. Interestingly as well, on March 2nd, Paul Vallas donated $100,100 to himself, as seen on a disclosure letter posted to the Illinois Election Disclosure website. The address of the donation came from his campaign headquarters in Bronzeville. As someone who may have been in debt a mere 4 years ago, it would be interesting to see where Vallas got so much money in his personal accounts to donate that much. The question of Vallas's finances has not been a part of his controversies yet. Maybe it could be. If one wants to see where their candidates' loyalties lie, follow the money. And that's what Carolyn Bueller and Kenneth Mazerat's article wraps up with.
Yeah,
where did that $100,000 come from when he was in debt last? Because normally you keep the money in your war chest for your next election, or you're supposed to. Now he was in a negative balance, and it came from his campaign headquarters, his campaign account. Now I also read that he made a personal loan. I wonder if that's the reason that they pulled this article, because he said that he made the loan to himself. I mean, I don't know what he's worth.
Yeah, well, still, where did he get that money from? We do know that there can be some shadiness with political funding. Some people realize that super PACs are capable of shielding a lot of information of where the money comes from, with a few tricks that we actually learned years ago from Stephen Colbert, back when he used to be on the side of goodness on the Colbert Report. But so that article was removed, but they did have sources at the bottom of their article. So they did source the information from Politico, Elections, Gov, the Board of Illinois State Board of Elections, and Ballotpedia. So they got information from places and posted their sources. So the question I have is, why did they pull this article?
Yeah, because it was well sourced, although it was more opinion authored. It didn't bother me. I mean, they were pointing out some very important questions. And all right, half clever. There's your comment. Fuck Paul Vallas. We agree. All right, going into our next article, coming from Block Club Chicago. Also, didn't we call this, Ed?
Yeah, we saw that coming.
We saw it coming when they started increasing police presence at the airport because of the intense cold, creating a climate, by no pun intended, by which a lot of homeless people were seeking refuge at O'Hare. This comes to us from Mac Liederman at Block Club Chicago. O'Hare Airport flushed out people experiencing homelessness as security presence increases. They told me I had to leave and that they won't let me back in, one woman said. I asked them where I could go. They said it's not our problem. Remember, though, we're the sanctuary city.
Yeah, that response right there, that's what's wrong with security and law enforcement right now.
Yep.
Not my problem.
Not my problem.
Gotta go.
You're supposed to help, not protect property all the time. And you know what? The cops should know where to direct the home, because I think that there is a warming center, or there is some kind of a. I think that there is a shelter.
The article mentions. We get to it. The place we listed. Yeah,
because we mentioned it before. All right. So this comes to us from Block Club Chicago. Denise, who is homeless, said she slept at O'Hare Airport only when she's had to this winter. Quote, everything is just so clean and warm compared to the shelters, Denise said. The airport is the safest place. About 2 weeks ago, Denise spent the night at O'Hare trying to escape freezing cold. The next morning, the airport was swarmed with police officers, she said. An officer asked Denise if she had a flight ticket. She didn't, and escorted her to the airport's Blue Line stop, she said. They told me I had to leave and that they won't let me back in, Denise said. I asked them where I could go. They said it's not our problem. Mayor Lori Lightfoot vowed in mid-February to take action to, quote, move people out of O'Hare as homelessness at the airport made national headlines. Now the terminals have been flushed out, an employee at O'Hare said Tuesday. And it seems like there are more police officers in the airport in recent weeks, several O'Hare employees said. On Tuesday, teams of 5 or more officers patrolled as passengers moved into the airport from the Blue Line stop. Officers stood by the turnstiles and gave directions to people who approached them. No people experiencing homelessness were in sight. A police spokesperson said in a statement, the department's airport unit has added additional resources and is paying special attention and probably also paying extra salaries or overtime to baggage claim areas as part of a new cross-agency efforts to address the population of unsheltered individuals at O'Hare. There are now overnight security checks at the O'Hare Blue Line station with CTA customers arriving between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. asked to show a boarding pass or employee badge, an aviation department spokesperson said in a statement. Aviation department security personnel work with the Chicago Police Department to enforce existing laws, which make it clear that it is unlawful to be at Chicago's airports without any airport business, the aviation spokesperson said in the statement. Who cares?
Yeah.
Please, who cares? You know they're not there for any nefarious reasons. You know they're not there to hijack an airline. You know that they're there to stay warm and maybe use a bathroom so they don't have to like pee out in the streets. This is the absolute, dismissal of a person's human dignity is what's at issue here that they just don't care about. O'Hare does not allow people to be at the airport unless they are flying or work at the airport, but people who've stayed there previously told Chicago there was an unspoken rule that you would be unbothered if you kept to yourself. But an O'Hare employee said officers now occasionally stop people to ask where they are going. The airport has been cleaner and safer for everybody, she said. There's less people harassing me when I come to work. I was getting sweared at regularly before, the employee said. Well, that's not good. You don't see people roaming around anymore. Hopefully they're being helped elsewhere. But really, are the homeless people there swearing at people all the time? I mean, I'm not doubting this employee's testimony, but how often does that happen? How often would you imagine that happens?
They're cherry picking like events that bolster their story that what they're doing is right.
Right. But housing activists say the enforcement change has criminalized struggling people and taken away a reliable refuge. Monica Dillon, who runs the Northwest Side Homeless Outreach Volunteer Group, said shelter infrastructure around O'Hare is already limited. For many who use the airport, I don't know where else to tell them to go, she said. Word of mouth is spread, and people know it's not a good time to go to the airport, Dillon said. It's not welcoming there right now. Dillon said political pressure resulted in abrupt and disruptive changes for the city's most vulnerable population. During election time, they wanted to change the optics, Dillon said. The airport having homeless people there, for them, it looked bad for the city. What do you think it's going to be like under a Paul Vallas administration?
Worse.
You think? And you made a point once before also, Ed. That could be someone who's like on a fucking late, whose flight was canceled because the airlines overbooked their passengers,
or they're stuck on a layover and they're waiting for their next connection. I mean, not everybody. I mean, look, some people can wait, in the seats over by where the boarding areas are, but other people, they're going to lay down and take a nap wherever they can. But at the same time.
Yeah. And Ed also remarks it's Haymarket Center is what it's called, near the airport there.
Yeah. And you can clearly the people who handle security, or whether it's police detail at the airport, they should be trained in knowing where to direct people and how to get them help.
Exactly.
That should be part of your job, right? And if you don't feel up to that job, maybe you should have somebody else helping you who is better at social work, and you should refer these people to them.
Just imagine how many jobs would be created if they put more social workers at the airport affiliated with the city to help help the homeless.
every person is a potential perp or an obstacle or a violator of some rigid law so that I can oppress them. Why you got to be like that?
And we're such bleeding heart liberals. Other workers at the airport were confused by how people staying at the airport disappeared, what felt like overnight, said Michael Kozilek, who refills vending machines. During the winter's peak season, there could be dozens of people sleeping in the airport on any given day. And let me tell you, too, those terminals are not full all the time. I've come through on red eyes or arrived on red eyes. I remember last time I came in at O'Hare, it was like late at night. I mean, the terminal was fucking empty. And I did see some people in the rideshare area where there were seats for people. I saw some homeless people there. They didn't bother me. Mm-hmm. They were just trying to stay warm. But in the last few weeks, there's honestly been none, Kozliak said. It's being flushed out. That's why we use that phrase flushed out in our show thumbnail. It being flushed out has not been typical, although that's how I imagine Lori and law enforcement. It's just like problem to flush, like number 2. Somehow they got them all out of here. It's a big mystery how and where they went. A pilot working out of O'Hare said there's always been a decent police presence at the airport, though in recent weeks, he's noticed heavier patrols from CTA Private Security on the Blue Line platform. A CTA spokesperson said in a statement the agency increased security presence at the station when it resumed 24-hour service there recently. More outreach workers have been added to the transit system this year, the spokesperson said. Haymarket Center's O'Hare Outreach Program, a nonprofit with an office by the Blue Line stop to connect people to social services, did not answer requests for comment. Officials at Haymarket previously told Block Club they've been busier assisting people seeking shelter at O'Hare. Homelessness in the city has worsened since the pandemic, forcing more people to seek refuge in public spaces, advocates and experts said. While they're gentrifying neighborhoods all across the city with housing that nobody can afford to live in, while getting rid of single residency occupancy and other housing and apartments that people could afford to live in. There's a graph. Doug Schenkelberg, executive director of the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, said O'Hare has been the place to go when given bad options. The crackdown at the gateway to the city is concerning, Schenkelberg said. You don't address homelessness by getting people experiencing it out of the line of sight, Schenkelberg said. We're falling back to reactionary approaches. Schenkelberg and Dillon said Lightfoot has undelivered on promises to combat homelessness, with more people now in need of help, while the city still lacks affordable and permanent housing. The mayor's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And when do they? In all of these articles we've ever talked about where they reach out to the mayor's office, that's always, it's like, it's deja vu. The mayor's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Denise said some people sleeping at O'Hare struggle with substance abuse and can cause problems like public urination and throwing garbage, but the shelters are even less sanitary, and Denise was robbed near one recently, she said. It's sad how the city handles the homeless. It's sad wherever you try to go. You have something to share, Ed?
No, it's depressing.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
I bet it looks like there's a screen on your end that you were going to pop
up. I had the Haymarket Center website again. They're doing what they can with what they have. They probably could use some more support. This should be another thing the city should be working on is to have more organizations like this working to help people get a roof over their head. But these are the types of programs that you could reallocate resources from the over-bloated police budget and support.
Or, you know what else you could do? You could make sure NASCAR is paying more money to the neighborhoods than the paltry sum of permits that it is paying to the city to destroy the downtown area with the race that Lori Lightfoot made sure was going to happen come hell or high water at the expense of moving Taste of Chicago. So let's get into this. This comes from Sarah Schulte at ABC7. There's a delay in approving the city's summer events the city's summer event schedules, including things like Taste of Chicago. Wait, rewind. Sorry, I'm talking too fast. There's a delay in approving the city's summer event schedule, including for things like Taste of Chicago, is on hold until the next mayor is seated. Okay, at first I thought that was me reading it the wrong way, but that's actually how it was written. And I don't think that the grammar is correct, but whatever. Ed, I think there's a video with this. Can you try opening it on your end?
Oh, that's what that noise was.
No, that's okay. No, I
had an ad that just started playing on this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if there's video on your end,
20,
that's cool.
Give me 20 seconds.
I'll keep reading. And then the delay comes at the request of Alderman Brendan Riley, whose 42nd ward includes Navy Pier and parts of Grant Park. Let's see if the ABC 7 video covers this after the commercial goes away. Grant Park is free and open to the public, but it's also the site of many summer events like Lollapalooza and Taste of Chicago. We just learned Taste of Chicago is the same weekend as NASCAR. Taste of Chicago occurs in the middle of it occurs. I'm actually shocked. I don't pay attention to Taste of Chicago, but how could they just realize when it was announced last year when NASCAR was taking place?
I mean, we all talked about how this was happening around the 4th of July weekend, and the Taste is always around then.
And it's already going to congest what's already congested down there.
Yeah. So I got the video ready if you want.
Okay, let's play the video. Maybe they repeat what's in the article that I'm reading from.
Yeah.
Well, Cheryl, Alderman Brendan Riley is the one who asked for the delay. His ward includes Navy Pier and some of Grant Park. Alderman Riley says he just found out from the Lightfoot administration that they want to move Taste of Chicago to Navy Pier because it occurs on the same weekend as NASCAR, an event that Riley says is going to close Grant Park for way too long.
I'm just going to pause it really quick to mention that Navy Pier is so hard to get to from any other part of the city.
Yep.
And if you're driving there and wanting to park over there, I mean, the last time I parked at Navy Pier, it cost me $30. And they want to do Taste of Chicago on that little pier.
Yeah.
That'll be a nightmare.
Yep.
Whether it's snapping a photo or riding a bike.
Think about how any of this was going to be planned around what's already there. Because I'm telling you, man, she's got some kind of kickback from these NASCAR people to shove this through the way that she did without consulting with Riley or the residents of that neighborhood the way that she did. And she's on her way out, so who knows what she's taking with her. But go back to the video.
No matter the season, Grant Park is an attraction, free and open to the public. It is also the site of many summer events, including Taste of Chicago.
We just learned that Taste of Chicago is the same weekend as NASCAR. Taste of Chicago occurs in the middle of Grant Park. You can't access it when there's a racetrack built around the park.
The northern end of Grant Park sits in Alderman Brendan Riley's 42nd ward. He says the Lightfoot administration just decided to move the Taste to Navy Pier without any dialogue with him or neighbors.
That is a last-minute switcheroo, just like the casino deal was, just like the NASCAR deal was. This is a trend.
So pause it for a second. Why didn't you guys stand up to her on both? It's interesting now everybody is talking about all the things that she rammed through and their dissatisfaction with it. Where were the majority of Alder people to say no at the time? A lot of them are retiring that said yes, and their nests are probably feathered. And I'm wondering about the rest that are remaining. Maybe they thought that she was going to stay in power when they decided that they were just going to lick her boots and approve what she wanted because they were beholden to her for whatever she was going to let, whatever funds would go into the neighborhoods. But it's just interesting to me. Now everybody's they had every opportunity to stop what she wanted to ram through, but they all approved. Riley's stance was, I'm assuming he didn't support her because it would look really hypocritical to say now, that she put all this stuff through without people standing up to her. But just the thought. Go ahead.
There wasn't reelected.
In addition, Riley says the administration has not been transparent about how many days Grant Park will close for NASCAR.
We knew that last year.
It was originally told 25 to 30 days max. He now says it may be 40 to include setup and breakdown.
People are going to have a very hard time getting to any kind of programming in Maggie Daily. The baseball diamonds, of course, aren't going to be
Pause it
available
again, please.
for
I'm
use.
sorry.
Grant Park.
Again, what the fuck was she thinking? And why the fuck didn't they say, no, we're not allowing this? I know that she passed. So if I'm remembering, how was she able to announce this without getting city council approval? I know that she didn't have to run it by the neighborhood. But
There's
how was she
kind of mayoral prerogative that they were allowed to do, and I'm sure the next city council is going to make sure that that's not happening ever again.
Well, hopefully.
We'll see.
I'm sure if Vallas gets in, you can bet it ain't going to happen because Vallas is going to be, Rom and Lori on steroids with the business influences. I would think Johnson would be more amenable to it, but go ahead.
Park Advisory Council President Leslie Rex says her organization has yet to hear any of the latest details from NASCAR.
There are a lot of issues here that were never addressed when the contract with NASCAR was signed.
While Recht and Alderman Riley say park groups and the city have a good, working, balanced relationship with Lollapalooza, between both events, portions of Grant Park will be closed for over 80 days.
Grant Park is being quietly and slowly privatized, where there are only a handful of days each summer season where the public can use it without having to pay an admissions fee.
And don't think it's going to change under Vallas. It's going to be privatized on steroids when he's in.
Yeah.
I have reached out to the mayor's office to get a response about
Let me
all
guess.
of this. I have not heard from the mayor's office, but we did just hear from Navy Pier. In a statement, they said there has not been agreement that has been worked out with the Taste and Navy Pier.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen.
Thanks for the clarification, Kathy. I mean, I don't remember the details when we talked about it last year. But, I guess that's what she did. She never asked about it. She just did it. Because she was the queen. She's the queen. She thought she was the queen. She thought that the mayor's office was a monarchy. Oh, God. Yes, it is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. You know what else it is, Kathy? This is what it is.
Blowjob!
Sorry about the silly videos, but they do punctuate our points.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah. All right, we're actually coming towards the end of the show here. Only 2 other stories, and it's almost 11 o'clock, so we can wrap stuff up. Not that I was in any rush with Erica. I mean, what a wonderful, delightful guest to have on for as long as she was able to share a time with us. Now, Ed shared this with me, and I used to see movies. I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark at the 400 Theater when I was in high school. Me and my friends, we got out of the suburbs and drove to Rogers Park. And I remember at that time, I think it was 2 theaters. I think they've carved it up into 4 now. But very sad to hear another great old mainstay of the neighborhood, the Rogers Park new 400 theaters could close after 100 years as fans make a last-ditch effort to save it. The new 400 theaters opened in 1912 and made it through the pandemic, but the crowds haven't returned, signaling the theater's likely demise, its owners said. Similar to what happened to the Pickwick closing down, although I think that they've got some interest in reopening it. I don't know if the 400 will be as lucky, given the fact it's not a huge old movie palace. And they're probably very dependent on traffic from the neighborhood that is now focused on sitting at home on weekends watching Netflix or Amazon or HBO Max. This comes to us from, let's see here, Joe Ward, Block Club Chicago. Crowds have not returned in droves to the movie theater 6746 North Sheridan Road. The downturn in business is all but ensured. The theater has to close for good, owner Tony Fox said. The Loyola Phoenix student newspaper broke the news, and they're right near Loyola University. So you would imagine students that want to get away from the dorms would probably be regular foot traffic, but
yeah,
apparently not. because the Loyola Phoenix student newspaper broke the news of the theater's likely closure March 1st. Since then, fans have flocked to the 400 and groups have organized to save it, but the fanfare will likely not be enough to keep the lights on, and it's overwhelmingly likely Fox will have to close the theater and find a new tenant, he said. The problem is we've lost too much money. Fox said, I decided to give it a chance last year to see if business would come back. We did half the business we used to before COVID. Half is a very big drop. The new 400 theaters opened in 1912 when the city was dotted with neighborhood movie houses. It remained in operation even as many of those movie palaces have gone out of business. Fox, a real estate investor, bought the retail building housing the new 400 in 2007. He took over operation of the theater in 2009 after its then owner stopped paying rent for more than a year. The theater enjoyed years of good business until the pandemic changed everything. The pandemic forced the new 400 to temporarily close, and the business pivoted to stay afloat. That includes operating as a takeout, concession business with patio service, a theater rental business, and even a coronavirus testing center. It reopened to regular movie screenings in June of 2021, marking the second pandemic the theater survived. But the movie theater attendance is down about 52% since 2018, according to IndieWire. At the same time, film studios are taking bigger cut of revenue from movie ticket sales, 65% compared to 51% in the past, Fox said. More new movies end up on streaming services, reducing the appeal of theaters. That plus extra labor costs due to minimum wage hikes has made the business model unsustainable, Fox said. Fox will soon begin a search for an entity to take over the theater space. Once the space is leased, he will likely look to sell the building, he said. But neighbors and movie lovers are not letting the new 400 go without a fight. One neighbor started the new 400 Street Team, a group dedicated to keeping the theater in business. A website has been formed that includes a page on how to help the business. More than 75 people. You know what? Actually, I'm going to send you the link.
For the Street Team, I got it.
Yeah, actually, I just put it in the. Here we go. Yeah, I put it in the chat. There we go. That's where people can find the Street Team. Oh, you just sneezed in my face. You little punk. Oh, bless you. Bless you. I didn't know cats sneezed multiple times. More than 75 people. Huh?
Now we know.
What's the matter? You catching a cold? Aw. All right. Sit down, baby. More than 75 people have signed up for the group's communications, said lead organizer Rachel Jones. The group's first meeting is scheduled for next week. You know why this story is actually like kind of more personal to me than you would think, just because I've directed movies?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a script in college that was inspired by my urban archaeological expeditions with my buddy Steve into the old Granada Theater that used to be right next to the Loyola campus that is now gone. It was a beautiful old movie palace that was shut down. And he and I, along with our other, stupid and young friends, would enter the building, what was closed down and abandoned, and explore it, because it was like going into an old tomb, like in an Indiana Jones movie. And those adventures inspired me to write a screenplay when I was in college about a bunch of kids who try to save an aging movie palace that's suffering from gentrification in the neighborhood. Now, the new 400 is not an old movie palace, but this movement in the neighborhood is reminding me of aspects of that screenplay that I wrote and the adventure that I wrote around the kids trying to save an old movie palace, which kind of cool to see. And I hope they're successful, because I know this is going to be tough, given the fact that admissions are down for all the reasons aforementioned. So it's a group that's meeting to figure out how they can save the theater. Another neighbor, Eric Hubner, has organized weekly movie nights with neighbors. The first group outing is planned for Thursday, with the hope the weekly event can gain steam and help the theater stay in business, Hubner said. Rogers Park has already been affected pretty terribly from COVID. The 400 theater is pretty near and dear to my heart. I would rather see it remain supported as our local theater than become derelict. The fans' efforts have driven up business. Fox said he's even fielded some inquiries from parties interested in buying the business. Fox said he appreciates the support, but the recent bump in popularity is unlikely to make a long-term difference. I'm grateful to everyone. Are you tired? Who's interested in the situation, he said. I don't think people understand how much business you need to sustain a place like that. You need everybody all the time. That's the way it was before COVID. Fox said the theater would likely need someone with, quote, Pritzker level money, but even then, there's no guarantee the business will ever turn a profit. You know, I wonder if they applied for that small business grow grant that was rescinded at the last minute, that all small business owners throughout the city were offered or encouraged to apply for last September, that they were supposed to make decisions on in January.
And then they pulled the rug out.
Yeah, and so sorry, we're not doing it anymore. We've got more funds, and we're gonna share other opportunities forthcoming. How did you not know you were going to have more money last year? Those budgets are planned ahead of time. And why don't you just roll over these applicants into the new program? There's something over there, Ed, that I find very, very, very.
Hanky, what was it?
So, and I've actually reached out to the Small Business Administration here in Chicago, or it's the Cook County. I'm sorry, it's the small business affiliated with the Cook County, and Tony Preckwinkle released press releases for that program. I actually shared on our Twitter. I had a series of questions for them asking, who made this decision? Why didn't you roll over applicants into the next grant period you're claiming there's going to be money for? How did you not know there was a whole series of questions? And of course, I got a canned response. But the reason I bring that up is, like, I'm going to keep digging at Cook County to ask them, do you know how many small businesses they pulled the rug out from under? Not that any small business should have depended on that grant, but it certainly would have helped. And I think that a lot that felt that they were eligible would have had an opportunity to, like, you know, keep their businesses going or inject a little bit more capital into things, given the fact that sales and other revenues are down. We're still trying to catch up with the damage the pandemic did. So a little side note, but when he says they would likely need someone with Pritzker level money, they are a small business and they would have qualified for that grant. I'm sure that I would imagine that they've applied for small business grants, but even then, there's no guarantee the business will ever turn a profit. Everyone has more choices now. Fox said the only incentive to go to the movies is to get away from your phone. Fox,
Well, a lot of people do want to do that. I mean,
yeah,
more people. I know we're a little biased because we're pro movie theater and we own AMC stock, and we want more people to go to the movies. And I think that's an experience you're not going to get at home, you know. So yeah, absolutely support your local theaters because they are really on a precipice, a lot of them.
There are some movies you must see on the big screen. You're not going to get the same experience at home. I went to go see that movie Babylon I shared with you about the transition of the silent film era to sound, and I was actually surprised. I went to go see it down at River North downtown, and it was a small theater, but it was a packed theater, and the spectacle of that movie, the grandeur of that movie, I couldn't have appreciated as much on a small screen at home. So, you know, whether it's, a historical epic like Babylon or another Marvel movie, that stuff's not going to hit the same way as a shared audience experience where you guys are all engaged at the same time, laughing, cheering, clapping, experiencing it together. That's the whole point of the movies, man. It's a shared experience. It's a place for you to escape. It's a place for you to, like, dream beyond the life that you've got on a huge canvas that's in front of you. So, yeah, I mean, it's sad. So the article wraps up and says Fox is speaking with real estate brokers who said the 8,000 square foot space could be converted to a restaurant, nightclub, or even a daycare, but that's not going to be the same for that neighborhood. The new 400 will not close for a few months and could remain open for as long as 9 months, Fox said. An announcement will be made if a closing date is decided upon. Fox is welcoming neighbors to patronize the long-running movie palace before it likely transitions to other use. I'm very grateful to the community for the good years we had. We can go out with a fizzle or we can go out with a bang. Last weekend was more like a bang. The new 400 theater is open Thursdays through Sunday. Screen times are online. Good luck to the new 400 theaters. We hope that somebody can what's the word? Conjure up a miracle.
Yeah, or maybe you win the lottery. Oh, speaking of the lottery,
yeah,
I should probably check my ticket.
Oh, you play it?
I bought a Mega Millions ticket just because I had like $3 burning a hole in my pocket. Normally, I don't do that because I don't really have any money that will burn a hole in my pocket typically. But it will be a very, very good evening indeed if I actually come out winning some money tonight. But I'm not holding my breath, Jerry.
I won't either. Last story of the night is a follow-up. Civic action in motion. Love it. We reported on the city's decision to give public housing land to the Chicago Fire soccer team. No offense to Pegleg. This comes from Madison Saavedra at Block Club Chicago. Residents organizers push feds to block city deal to give public housing land to a pro soccer team. Chicago Housing Authority officials want the feds to approve their deal. I'm sorry. Pop-ups. I know Block Club Chicago's got to make money. I'm bringing the picture up here. Chicago Housing Authority officials want the feds to approve their deal to let the Chicago Fire soccer team build an $80 million training facility at the former Abla Homes. If they can afford to build an $80 million training facility, don't you think they can afford to buy the property somewhere else instead of taking it from CHA?
Yeah, I do. Plus, those are supposed to be public housing.
Yep. Affordable public housing. Near West Side, it took Laura Donaldson 4 attempts and several years to find a Chicago Housing Authority apartment, finally moving into a place on the site of the former Adams, Brooks, Loomis, and Abbott homes in 2016. Now, Donaldson and other neighbors want the federal government to block a deal to hand over CHA land at the site for a Chicago Fire soccer training facility and preserve the land for its intended purpose, creating more public housing. About a dozen neighbors protested Wednesday outside the Chicago office of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, blasting the federal agency's lack of action as the city moves to lease 24 acres of public land to the pro team owned by billionaire who needs public housing land, Joe Mansueto. Now, let me also say this. I am so excited to hear that they are organizing to make this happen. And sadly, I hope I'm wrong, I don't think it's going to amount to 2 squirts of piss, given how neglectful the Department of Housing and Urban Development and other federal agencies have been under both parties for the past couple decades. But let's wish them the best, because I'm glad to see that they are organizing and bringing attention to it. Because, I mean, there's been attention on this for a while, and it's surreal that you read this. Oh, public housing land. Okay, they want to build a stadium that's worth what did I say it was worth? $80 million, and it's owned by a billionaire named Joe Mansueto. So naturally, the place to get the land, the property, is from public housing. I mean, it's dystopian.
Big time
dystopian. City Council, they're to blame too. There we go.
And all it took him was a huge donation to Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah. Was it that huge? I think we saw his donation.
Was it like 25,000?
Was it? Okay,
or so was it just 5?
You know what surprises me when we look at Illinois Sunshine is how cheap some of our politicians can be bought off for. If you want to check Illinois Sunshine while I continue this, I'd be curious to see what Mansueto, what Lori Lightfoot's price was on this sellout. City Council approved the deal to lease the land to the team in September, despite pushback from some alder people and affordable housing activists. Unfortunately, there are not enough of them on City Council. The exact terms of the deal have been shrouded in secrecy as housing authority leaders refuse to disclose details until after the feds approve the deal. Officials have told alder people the team would pay $8 million up front for the land, plus up to $800,000 a year for 40 or more years. Okay, and where are the people who need housing going to be put? That land was specifically set aside and reserved and supposed to be developed for everybody that was relocated from Cabrini Green. Not that Cabrini Green was any, beautiful castle to live in, but there was a commitment to provide better affordable housing to people that were put out. City housing officials previously said they're seeking approval from Housing and Urban Development to finalize the agreement. It's just obscene. Don Washington, the executive director of the Chicago Housing Initiative, said at Wednesday's news conference it's the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's job to ensure CHA is using its land properly and building long-promised apartments for low-income residents. Quote, it's public land to house people, not make profit for the city, Washington said. I thought turning black and brown people into cash was done, but clearly it's not. HUD has an obligation to do its job and protect people's rights to live on the land that they were promised. A housing and urban development spokesperson, guess, Ed, didn't respond to requests for comment. Do they ever? They're not obligated to. It doesn't matter. They're so, they're so transparently contemptuous of anybody asking them questions because it's like they're fucking untouchable. They're gangsters.
So speaking of accountability.
Okay, let's see what she was bought off for.
Okay, $25,000 went to Lightfoot for Chicago.
Interesting. Friends of Fritz Kagi, $100,000, and Fritz Kagi does all the property tax assessments.
Yeah, there's a he's been giving money to Fritz for a handful of years. It looks like. He gave a whole ton of money to Rauner in 2018. He gave. Oh, here's a weird thing. He gave $150,000 to Chicago for Rahm Emanuel, and then Rahm Emanuel returned half of it. I don't know what that's about.
What year was it?
2018.
That was the year before he said he wasn't going to run again, right?
Was that when that was?
Oh.
We'll have to look at the dates and see.
So he gave back Mansueto. So clearly Mansueto was expecting a full quid pro quo, but Rahm gave him a refund for what he wasn't able to get in Rahm carving up pieces of the pie of the city of Chicago for Mansueto. Yeah, it was the 2018 election because Lightfoot won in 2020. So it would have been in 2019, beginning of 2019, that Emanuel said he wasn't going to run again. I think that's when it was, and that's when he gave back the money. Interesting.
When did the Laquan McDonald thing happen? We probably look at a timeline and find out when exactly, and then go, okay, look, you're not running again. I want half of my money back. Man.
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
I would like to thank the great mayor of the city of Chicago, Mayor Emanuel, for help making this happen today.
He and Lori are in the same club now.
Yeah, we're not in the same club. I'm in the club. I'm not a loser. I'm an ambassador, Jerry. I'm in Japan. You can't touch me, sucker.
Oh, thank Christ! At least he's out of our hemisphere of
for the moment,
the world. Yeah,
till Japan kicks him out.
A 2022 ProPublica investigation by Mick Dumke found housing and urban development hasn't blocked a public housing land deal in Chicago in the past decade. As Kathy says in the chat, done deal. Most of the former Adams, Brooks, Loomis, and Abbott homes, also known as Abla homes, were demolished in 2007. At the time, the city's housing agency vowed to create more. Vowed. That's a big word. When you vow, that's a promise. To create more than 2,400 units of improved, affordable, and mixed-use housing, partially for displaced residents. But most of that housing was never built, and much of the site has since been used as part of the Adams-Medill Park. The plan to now set aside the land for a private sports franchise has drawn criticism from community members and housing activists. Donaldson said it shouldn't be such a struggle for people, especially those with disabilities like her, to find housing. The CHA needs to fulfill its commitment to build accessible, affordable, integrated apartments, she said. It should not take a person with disabilities that long to get housing, she said. When I first started looking for housing, I was pregnant with my daughter. She's now turning 31 years old. That's too long to be waiting for housing. officials, Jesus Christ. And I'll share with you what my Jesus Christ exclamation came from. That's what's coming.
Yeah.
That was housing land, affordable housing land, that was vowed, which is a promise, to the displaced. Officials have said they conducted a community input process to hear what nearby residents thought of the fire proposal, but Donaldson said she and many of her neighbors were never approached. If you don't know what to do with the housing for us, ask us, she said. We are here. We can speak for ourselves. We should not suffer because you do not know how to come to us. The proposal for the fire complex includes 50,000 square foot, 2-story headquarters for locker rooms, training and office space, as well as 5.5 soccer fields and 150 parking spaces. An inflatable bubble over one of the fields would be installed for winter. The Bears are leaving Soldier Field.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
They're gone. They're going to be gone. I have no doubt they're gone, given that they closed on the deal with the Arlington Park racetrack. That's a lot of money to close on, okay? Soldier Field is looking for not residents, residents or
tenants.
Tenants. Soldier Field needs tenants. Unless you're going to house all those displaced over at Soldier Field? Look at this, man. Look at this.
The wheelers and dealers in Chicago had all these plans for that area around Soldier Field. And even if it hadn't been football centric, if football hadn't been the anchor for that place, they could easily have, look, I don't know how popular soccer is with the rest of the city. I know with the rest
about it.
With the rest of the world, it's pretty damn popular. And if maybe they had a type of infrastructure where it's the center of a giant hub of entertainment.
Yeah. Well, here's my point, though, too. This is just a fucking training facility.
Yeah.
Where do they play? I don't know where they play because I don't pay attention to soccer. But can't you use Soldier Field as a training field as well as the venue by which people will come watch soccer? Look at how much wasted space there is here. Look at how much open wasted space there is aside from the soccer field. And why do you need multiple training fields to train one fucking soccer team? $50,000 square foot, 2-story headquarters for locker rooms, training office, as well as 5.5 soccer. Why do you need 5.5 soccer fields? And 150 parking spaces. An inflatable bubble over one of the fields would be installed for winter, officials said. Fire officials have also discussed starting a youth mentorship program and an after-school soccer training academy, because you know how many kids are making good livings playing soccer, right? City officials, including Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the local alderman, and CHA Chief Executive Tracy Scott, have supported the project, claiming it will bring in additional funds for the CHA to build and improve housing and provide economic stimulation to the area. Where? Critics of the project have said the supposed economic benefits don't outweigh the loss of land that was intended for public housing. The proposed Chicago fire facility isn't the only project on the Adams, Brooks, Loomis, and Abbott home sites. In September, officials held a groundbreaking ceremony for the National Public Housing Museum. Oh,
museum!
It's going to be a museum to public housing. Dude, I'm telling you, man, why didn't Captain America, why didn't Steve Rogers return the Infinity Stones to this reality so we wouldn't be living in this dystopian nightmare?
That's the height of irony, isn't it? They're not gonna put public housing there, but they are gonna put a public housing museum.
My God. Was it Steve Rogers not returning the Infinity Stones, or was it them turning on the Hadron Collider back in 2000 that suddenly, like, whenever they turned it on, that completely ripped the fabric of the time-space continuum and forced us to live in this reality as opposed to a more positive one?
Well, whatever actually flipped the switch on that thing, we're definitely in the dark universe now. We're in the mirror universe from Star Trek.
We are.
Because in the mirror universe in Star Trek, everybody's got goatees. So okay, we got that, and then all this terrible pro-Empire thing happens to the planet Earth, where they're basically just trying to conquer everything. And that's kind of happening right now. You know, it's any minute now it's going to be Planet America. And then they're going to go out with the Space Force and conquer Mars and every other planet.
I'm going to send you a link in the private chat, and we're going to close the show with it, because I think it speaks to what we discussed with Erica. It speaks to this mirror reality that we're living in. So just be prepared for it. We'll finish this article and we'll play this at the end of the show. I don't give a shit if we get a copyright strike. It's going to be fair use. But let me finish the article. Museum, public housing museum, a project that's been in the works for 15 years. Obviously, it doesn't seem like it was that important if it's been in the works for 15 years, unless they're just like throwing a bone now to make it look like they care about public housing by putting a museum up. A project that's been in the works for 15 years to renovate the last remaining building from Jane Addams' home at 1322 West Taylor Street. It's expected to open this fall. The museum will use oral histories, art, photography, and more to preserve the stories to come out of public housing in Chicago, reshaping the narrative of what public housing is and informing present discussion on housing policies, museum leaders have said. Irony? Oh, and it will also have 15 mixed income apartments from a partnership with the city housing agency and developer Related Midwest. And in January, construction began on the next phase of the Roosevelt Square development, building 222 apartments and upgrading 184 affordable apartments on former Adams, Brooks, Loomis, and Abbott land. The new apartments will be in 3 mid-rise buildings at 1002 South Racine, 1257 West Roosevelt Road. By the way, I was pronouncing Racine the way that Andy Garcia pronounced Racine in The Untouchables. Yeah. When he was calling the ambulance for Sean Connery getting shot. I forget. 1060.
He said Racine.
1060 South Racine. Yeah.
Well, I've heard Racine, but not Racine.
I think he said Racine in the movie. I remember it like vividly. Something Racine. And which clearly meant he, was not really from Chicago. But anyway, you know how much I love to mispronounce things or just pronounce them my way. Because as you know, I say sabotage, you say sabotage, I say sabotage. 1257 West Roosevelt Road and 1357 West Roosevelt Road with studios to 3-bedroom apartments. The project phase is expected to wrap by 2024. Now, speaking of, he's not late, but he is great. William Shatner. I want to close before we close tonight's show. Anything else you want to share before? We're almost 11:30. It's been a good show.
Oh yeah, it's way past my bedtime too. Look, you guys want to save some money, but do you guys like to bake at home? You like pizza? Head over to realdeepdish.com and learn how to make Chicago-style pizza at home.
And remember, next Tuesday, we have 15 minutes with Commissioner Brandon Johnson exclusively on Chicago Corner. I want to thank Kira for setting that up. Ed and I will be interviewing Commissioner Johnson. We will have a list of questions for him. We can't quiz him on the entire Chicago Corner manifesto. However, we are going to pull some questions from it. Our top question, though, is going to be public bank, yes or no? And if it's no, why not? Because that seems to be a real sticking point with some other candidates here in the city as far as a principal reason not to endorse them, although I don't think one reason should be the only reason not to endorse somebody. So with that being said, as our friend Mr. Kit Cabello likes to punctuate, hey, Kit, sorry we couldn't have you on tonight. It was a busy show. We'll have you on again soon. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Ed, great show. Thank you for your always level-headed contributions when I get a little riled up. And we're going to close with something on organizing, ultimately leading to revolution that I hope comes peacefully in all of the efforts that everyone's trying to make to, as our friend Kit says, build a better future. If I can borrow that from his closing on Hard Lens Media. Ed, would you share this? And then we'll go out.
Yes, I will share this fair use segment that its origin is the mirror universe. So you cannot do a DMCA strike on content that came from another universe. I'm
There you
just
go.
saying it right now.
And leave us on for it too.
By that time, I have something to say. How long before the Hulk prediction of collective revolt is realized?
Approximately 240 years.
The inevitable outcome?
The Empire shall be overthrown, of course.
The logic of waste, Mr. Spark. The waste of lives, potential, resources, time. I submit to you that your empire is illogical because it cannot endure. I submit you are illogical to be a willing part of it.
You have 1 minute and 23 seconds.
If change is inevitable, predictable, beneficial, doesn't logic demand that you be a part of it?
One man cannot summon the future.
But one man can change the present. Be the captain of this enterprise, Mr. Spock. Find a logical reason for sparing the Halkans and make it stick. Push till it gives. You can defend yourself better than any man in the fleet. Captain, get in the chamber! What about it, Spock?
The man must also have the power.
In my cabin is a device that will make you invincible.
And that device is a deep dish pizza.
Let it play out.
It will make you invincible. Okay, I'll play the rest.
Indeed. What will it be? Past or future? Tyranny or freedom? It's up to you. It is time. In every revolution, there's one man with a vision.
Captain Kirk, I shall consider it.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I hope, man. I mean, what did Harvey Dent say in The Dark Knight? It's always darkest before the dawn. It's pretty fucking dark right now. Let's hope it's a signal that the dawn is coming, and it's only going to be through the good efforts of activists, organizers like Erica, and other good people across the city doing important things to serve everybody to eat, not just carve out pieces of the pie. All right, buddy. Thanks for joining me tonight. And to everybody else who's joined the show, thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe, share our program, share our links. Join us again this Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time when we will have Commissioner Brandon Johnson on the program, who is running against Palos Paul Vallas in the runoff. Until next Tuesday, please make sure as you go into the weekend to stay safe, watch out for each other, remain vigilant. And remember, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. I wish you all a safe and enjoyable weekend and look forward to greeting you all next Tuesday when we return. Thanks for joining us and stay safe, Chicago.
Get out and don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.